Chapter 1429. Ah! How! Miao Xian, who had just calmed down a little, immediately cried out in surprise once again. This time, even Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and the other girls, as well as Chen Nan and the other brothers and sisters, who were extremely confident in Chen Hao, were no exception. What's going on? Sword King Chen Hao, King Ying, Qing Wanxiang, Mo Shilin, Ruolin, Ruoxian and other masters who cared about Chen Hao were also stunned at this moment. Even they did not expect such a change. Although they did not know what had happened to Chen Hao, they could clearly see that it was definitely not a good thing. Especially the aura and Tao laws that were close to exploding. Once completely out of control, it was very likely that Chen Hao's body would explode and his body and soul would be destroyed. The winner has been decided. I'll help him. Qi. Before Chen Taishu's voice fell, he directly turned into a sword light and disappeared from the rostrum. Chen Hao was his nephew. Although he was not Chen Wuliang's biological son, he was no different from his own. How could he let anything happen to Chen Hao under his nose? However, no, brother Chen. Qi. Without any movement, Star River King stepped out and stood in front of Chen Taishu. His opponent was the new generation of Sword King, Chen Taishu. This made the top experts on the rostrum feel horrified. The Celestial River King had shown a lot of affection towards Chen Taishu before, indicating that he had deliberately tried to win over Chen Taishu. It made everyone think that even if Chen Taishu's strength was not as good as the Celestial River King's, the gap between them would not be too big. However, at this moment, the Celestial River King casually took a step forward. Everyone who had not seen the Celestial River King in action for many years understood that the Celestial River King's position as the #1 person in the Great Thousand World was unshakable. Brother Xiao, what are you doing? Chen Taishu stared at Star River King, who appeared in front of him out of thin air. He was also shocked. Although the other party's aura was not released at all at this moment, it gave him an insurmountable feeling. Strong. Very strong. Chen Taishu, who was already the #1 swordsman, clearly felt that the gap between him and Star River King was insurmountable at this moment. The match is not over yet, Celestial River King said with a faint smile as he stared at Chen Taishu. A feeling that could not be disobeyed enveloped the world. At this moment, he was the heavens and the earth. His words were the order of the world. No one could deny it. If it were anyone else, they would have retreated immediately. But, Brother Xiao, Chen Tianhe's spirit was severely injured and collapsed. Together with the Yang spirit that went out of control, he was swallowed and merged by Li Yuan. Isn't the outcome of the battle obvious? Chen Taishu suppressed the irresistible feeling in his heart, and a fierce sword intent flashed in his eyes. Only then did he manage to break free from the Celestial River King's momentum. The Yin spirit was severely injured, but it did not collapse. As for the Yang spirit that went out of control, does it matter who swallows whom? They were meant to fuse. And now, Li Yuan is unable to fully control the other lives. Such a change is an opportunity for Tianhe and the other lives. How can it be uncontrollable? Prince Ying interrupted. You are also worried about him? The Celestial River King turned his head to look at Prince Ying and asked. Prince Ying's expression, at this moment, could not hide a trace of nervousness. Naturally, it could not escape the Celestial River King's eyes. He is the disciple of my new disciple, Chen Si. Naturally, I have to be concerned, is that so? Ying, is there anyone in the world who knows you better than me? Ha. The Celestial River King laughed, and did not continue to ask the question. Instead, he continued, including his original body, there are a total of 8 lives. Before, Li Yuan had fused with Chen Qi and another life, but he did not truly merge them. And Tianhe had fused with the other 4 lives, but he also did not merge them. And now that the 8 lives have suddenly merged, Li Yuan's soul origin power is unable to be controlled at all. You mean he should slowly merge them one by one? That's right. If he truly merged them into one, then there would be no problem with the next one. It is not that easy to become a fatty in one go. If he can do it, then it can only be said that his 9 lives profound technique has failed. Because besides his original body, the other clones are too weak. And the most fatal point is that he only has 8 lives. What do you mean? King Ing asked. Look. The celestial river king looked at the center of the arena. Chi. Chi. It was also at this time that something even more shocking happened to Chern Hao. In the explosion of flesh and blood, an incomparably powerful aura shot up into the sky, jumping out of Chern Hao's body. However, under the restraint of Chern Hao's aura, they appeared around him and froze in the void. 1, 2, 3 The aura of the mad demon realm, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, and the spirit spring sea? The girls and Chern Hao's siblings all exclaimed at this moment. The first 3 auras that escaped were the auras of Chern Hao's clones. Following that, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th auras of the Tree of Life, Shao Qi, the second anima, and the Slaughter Life's auras all rushed out. In an instant, the auras of Chern Hao's second life to the 8th life, a total of 7 lives, including Chern Hao's original body, all appeared. Of the 8 auras, there was no doubt that the aura of Chern Hao's original body was the strongest. It was also the foundation that bound the other 7 auras together. However, although 6 of the other 7 auras didn't dissipate, they formed a clear division between them and the original body. They didn't give way to each other and were fiercely struggling, as if they could break free of the original body's aura at any time. The only aura that didn't struggle was the 7th life, Chun Chi. Chun Chi had lost to Chern Hao's original body in a completely fair battle, and he had lost wholeheartedly. This was one of the factors. More importantly, Chun Chi was the only life that Chern Hao had completely connected with. It could be said that he was in existence equal to Chern Hao's original body. Under such circumstances, there was almost no conflict between Chun Chi and the original body. The only difference was the time it took for them to merge. This Chun Taishu, Prince Ing, and the other experts widened their eyes in shock. Sure enough, as the Star River King said, Chern Hao's 7 clones were on the verge of losing control. Obviously, Chern Hao's original body was forcibly holding on. Of the 7 lives, besides Chun Chi, the other 6 could break free at any time. 1. Chi. Chern Hao's body suddenly shook again. In an instant, endless runes rose up. Roar! Amidst the raging energy and splashing blood, Chern Hao's arms were stretched out. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he madly roared. At the same time, his spiritual altar completely bloomed. The resplendent crystal light was so dazzling that no one dared to look directly at it. Even more astonishing was that within the resplendent crystal light, his special ability, the fiery golden eyes, was faintly flashing. Chapter 1430. Suppress him. Chi. Along with Chern Hao's boundlessly cold shout, the countless talismans suddenly condensed into strands of peerlessly sharp sword light. In an instant, they formed a dense net of swords that interweaved with the heavens and the earth like an inescapable net. What? At this moment, countless people exclaimed, especially the cultivators from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. They were so shocked that they could not be described with words. His divine ability was fused with his sword Dao, and then it formed a dense sword net that covered the sky and covered the sun. It would be fine if it was just a sword net, but every single sword light that Chern Hao formed actually had a connection. Their auras resonated with each other, and they relied on each other. Once one sword light was attacked, it would definitely be attacked by countless sword light. What a powerful sword formation! It's so complicated, but he can actually control it in such a state. It's really unbelievable. His state of mind, willpower, and endurance are definitely at a level that makes one's hair stand on end. Countless people exclaimed. Suppress? This is clearly killing. Unlike the crowd, who was shocked by Chen Hao's abnormal strength, the old man on the rostrum, as well as countless true immortal kings and Dao severing true immortals, were puzzled when they saw the sword formation that Chen Hao had sent out. That sword formation was clearly a killing sword formation. How could it be used to suppress? That was impossible. Even true immortal king realm experts thought so. It seems that he's already confirmed that he can't control the rioting clones. After Chen Hao's 7 lives escaped, all the cultivators already knew what was going on. The courage of a warrior to cut off his wrist is also rare and commendable. It's just a pity that he can't truly merge the 7 clones after painstakingly cultivating them. Yes, it's such a pity. However, at this point, there's no other way. That's right. They're already in one physical body. Once the 7 lives escape, there's only one result. They'll explode and die, their bodies and souls destroyed. If the 7 lives still had their fleshly bodies and soul palaces, then they would be able to escape. But now, they were actually sharing their fleshly bodies and soul palaces with Chen Hao. It was just that they had yet to truly become one. Therefore, once the 7 clones escaped, Chen Hao's main body, who controlled the soul palace and the body, had no chance of surviving. What a pity, what a pity! If his other lives, such as Chen Tianhe, had escaped, what would have happened? The soul of a rootless duckweed. It required a true immortal king realm expert to condense a soul palace and reconstruct a golden body for it to recover. However, whether or not he can recover his previous innate talent and strength, it would depend on the strength of the person who condensed it. Chen Tianhe should have no problems with it. His master is a celestial river king. I see. No wonder the celestial river king stopped the sword king. Countless cultivators discussed among themselves. The sword king Chen Hao and King Ying also thought so. However, in the face of the number 1 person in the great world of CND, there was nothing they could do. After all, the competition between Chen Hao and Chen Tianhe was within the rules. Since they knew that the outcome of the competition had not been decided, they could not violate the rules of the competition. It was a long story, but in fact, it happened in an instant. Just as the crowd was feeling sorry for Chen Hao's fiery golden eyes suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light with a qi sound. In an instant, an incomparably sacred aura quickly spread out and integrated into the sword net. At this moment, the dazzling golden light was so sacred that it made countless cultivators, even those of a higher realm, and even those of the true immortal king realm, feel a sense of worship. It filled every single sword light of the sword net. Godhood. The godhood of an immortal emperor! Oh my God! At this moment, whether it was the spectators on Deerchaser Peak or the mighty figures in the celestial realm, they all exclaimed. In particular, the mighty figure of the true immortal king in charge of the commentary in the celestial realm caused countless cultivators in the celestial realm to explode. Bastard! He actually used Shi Chao's godhood? Li Wuxiang, the dean of Tanglong Academy, who could not wait for Chen Hao to explode and die immediately, exploded in anger when he sensed the aura contained in the golden light. He almost vomited blood and died. However, soon after, Li Wuxiang seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened and he sucked in a breath of cold air. The shock in his heart had reached an indescribable level. How is this possible? Even if he obtained Shi Chao's godhood, how could he control it? It's impossible, impossible. How did he do it? Li Wuxiang muttered to himself. He was so shocked that his words were trembling. That was a godhood that only the spirits of all living beings who reincarnated as immortal emperors could possess. To be more precise, it was something that only immortal emperors could truly possess. Even if it was an expert at the true immortal king realm or immortal emperor, it was said in the remnant records and some inherited memories that no one could easily control another's godhood. The godhood was the fruit of the immortal emperor's strongest great Tao. Every cultivator's Tao was different from each other. At most, one could comprehend the mysteries contained in the godhood and use it for reference. It was almost impossible to control it. However, Chun Hao actually used Shi Chao's godhood. How could Li Wuxiang not be shocked? Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. A slender and tall figure faintly appeared in the golden light. He stood in the void above the sword net and looked down at the world. He naturally revealed an aura of disdain for the world. Ah! Isn't this figure? Isn't this the Tanglong Academy's Shi Chao who was in the limelight at the beginning of the team competition? Tanglong and Shi Chao were killed by Li Yuan of the University of Dehua in the team competition and obtained his godhood. No, even if he obtained Tanglong's godhood, how could he use it? After Li Wuxiang, when the pressure of the godhood continued to increase and caused Shi Chao's figure to appear, countless experts were shocked. Before this, not everyone knew about the matter between Chun Hao and Shi Chao. After all, during the team competition, there was no image. They only knew that the University of Dahua and the Tanglong Academy met and Tanglong retreated. After the competition, Shi Chao did not appear again. Godhood. At this moment, the calm Star River King frowned slightly. A touch of imperceptible excitement and shock flashed in his eyes. This is the real godhood. The Star River King's powerful mind perception directly pierced through time and space and quietly integrated into Shi Chao's figure. He felt the godhood's aura that made him want to submit to it. He was extremely excited. Half-step Immortal Emperor, the #1 Immortal Emperor in the Great Thousand World, he was only a hair's breadth away from breaking the legend and becoming a lofty Immortal Emperor. However, after 20 million years, he hadn't made any progress. He was clearly one step away, but there was still a layer of membrane that he couldn't break through. Chapter 1431. Now, the divine spark of an immortal emperor had finally appeared in front of the Star River King. The Celestial River King had long known that the spirits of all living beings would soon surface. In this year's ranking competition, the Celestial River King had already locked onto dozens of people who might be the reincarnations of immortal emperors. However, he had not taken any action for the time being. Therefore, the appearance of Shi Chao's godhead and the feeling of the godhead's aura made him extremely excited. The Star River King knew very well that if he relied on himself, he might stop at the half-step Immortal Emperor realm for the rest of his life. After all, he was already at the peak of this world and had gathered the strongest luck. He was invincible, and it was impossible for him to have any opportunities unless he left the great world of Xiandi. But where could he find a better place than the great world of Xiandi? Because of this, the divine spark might be his only hope. Even if he could not refine the divine spark, he believed that he could learn a little bit from the aura of the divine spark and perfect his great Tao. Only in this way could he have a chance to cultivate and step into the immortal emperor realm. A divine spark is a great Tao, and this kid can actually control the great Tao of others. How can it be described as simple? The Star River King secretly thought. When the Star River King obtained Chen Tianhe as his disciple, he knew that Chen Tianhe's original body was not simple. Not to mention anything else, just by condensing the terrifying power of faith into Chen Tianhe and letting Chen Tianhe control it, he could infer that Chen Tianhe not only had countless devout believers, but also a huge number of cultivators. Even the total number of cultivators in a medium-sized vast thousand world could not be compared to him. Moreover, he must have a stronger power, otherwise, he would not have let Chen Tianhe control the power of faith. And Chen Tianhe's original body could gather such a majestic power of faith at such a young age. What did it mean? It meant that his original body must have relied on his heaven-defying talent to gain the admiration of countless cultivators in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. After learning about Chern Hao's other lives, The Star River King was even more certain that Chen Tianhe's original body was not simple, because almost every life had its own characteristics. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were completely different, and each of them was very strong. As the founder of the 9 Lives Profound technique, he believed that he could not do it. This was because his Tao could not merge completely different Tao laws together. And now, Chen Hao's original body could actually use other people's godhead, which was even more inconceivable. We have to take him down no matter what. It would be even better if he could self-destruct at this time. His godhead can't be destroyed. The Celestial River King felt slightly excited, and his eyes could not help but light up. At this time, if Chen Hao self-destructed, his divine deity would definitely appear, and Shi Chao's divine deity would also regain its freedom. There was no doubt about this. What a pity! Celestial River King shook his head slightly, his eyes flashing. As soon as Shi Chao's godhood appeared, it only took a moment for Chen Tianhe and the others to submit to it. At this moment, Chen Hao, whose physical body had stopped exploding, directly controlled the sword net to shrink. Like catching turtles in a jar, he once again sucked the clones into his glabella. The Celestial River King did not notice that Prince Ing, who seemed to be staring at the battle ring in shock, was actually observing every move he made. The person who knew the Celestial River King the best in the world was none other than Prince Ing. Although the Celestial River King controlled his expression to the point of perfection, Prince Ing still saw through some clues, which made Prince Ing even more worried. Little brother Chen. Sword King Chen Taishu was slightly surprised that Prince Ing took the initiative to send him a message. Do you like Chen Hao a lot? Cough cough. I was talking about Li Yuan. Under the tense situation, Prince Ing directly said Chen Hao's name, but just as he finished speaking, he realized that Chen Taishu might not know the name Chen Hao, so he hurriedly added, I know, Prince Ing, I know about Chen Hao's situation, and I also know about your relationship with him, and about the ancient chaos great thousand world, This time it was Prince Ying's turn to be surprised. In fact, when Chen Hao confirmed that Chen Taishu was his uncle, he told him everything about his father and the ancient chaos great thousand world, including what happened between Yilan, Prince Ing and the Celestial River King, and the development of the great world of Xiandi and the ancient chaos great thousand world. Therefore, Chen Taishu knew about the relationship between Prince Ing and Chen Hao. However, the information that Prince Ing got from Si Xian was much less. Even Si Xian did not know about the real relationship between Chen Hao and Chen Taishu, let alone Prince Ing. I wonder if Prince Ing still remembers my brother? Your younger brother. Oh, let me think. You have the Sword Emperor's body, while he has the Martial Emperor's body. In terms of pure talent, he is stronger than you. However, he seems to have disappeared for a very, very long time, right? Prince Ing said. At Prince Ying's level and age, he had experienced too much. Regularly clearing the useless memory fragments, which was the cutting path, was already something that he had to do. Otherwise, an expert with a photographic memory would definitely not use the word think, and this was based on the information that Chen Taishu had. Yes. He entered the endless cycle of reincarnation and sealed his martial supreme body. Why did he seal it? Oh, I understand. He is versatile but not proficient. He could not control it, right? Yes. It's been tens of millions of years. I always thought that my brother had met a true immortal king in the endless cycle of reincarnation and had truly fallen. I never thought that I would suddenly receive news about my brother. You're saying all this. Could it be that Chen Hao is related to your brother? Your brother seems to be called Chen Wuliang. Yes, Chen Wuliang. So it's him. I understand now. Prince Ing suddenly remembered the information that Si Xian had given him about Chen Hao's father, Chen Wuliang. At this moment, even without Chen Taishu saying anything, Prince Ing already knew the relationship between him and Chen Hao. This was a relationship worthy of trust. Prince Ing, what do you want to say to me? As the sword puppet, Chen Taishu went straight to the point after explaining. The Celestial River King covets Chen Hao. I know that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said those things to me before. I'm not talking about becoming his disciple. He definitely doesn't covet a disciple. You don't know how strong his obsession to reach the peak of the martial Tao is. Becoming an immortal emperor is his greatest goal. For this goal, he would do anything. Everything is above him. The only thing in his heart is the martial Tao. Prince Ying's voice carried a hint of sorrow. Prince Ying, what do you mean? Godhood. He covets the godhood. Moreover, it's Chen Hao's godhood. Understanding the mysteries of the godhood may be one of the best ways to become an immortal emperor. His expression already tells me that he will not let Chen Hao go. What he wants to do, no one can stop him. I don't have the confidence to do it alone. He is a half-step immortal emperor. Although his cultivation level has stagnated for many years, his battle prowess seems to have increased. Although I've been working hard, the gap between us is still growing. Chapter 1432. King Ying, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, I will do my best to help you. No matter what, we must protect Chen Hao. He is not only my nephew, but also the son-in-law of all my brother's daughters. My niece's son-in-law, my Tushu. I have been lonely for many years. Although the time is not ripe yet, the possibility of teaming up with you to challenge the invincible legend of the Star River King is something that I have always longed for. Good, that's good. Whether my poor daughter can return or not depends on Chen Hao. Even if we have to shed all pretense of cordiality, we must ensure his safety. However, King Ying, he won't make a move now, right? Of course not now. If he wants to make a move, it will be after the competition. However, at this moment, he must have locked onto Chen Hao. It would be impossible to escape from his sight. Of course, he will definitely find a reason for himself. This kind of thing is what he is best at. Understood. The two of them finished their discussion without batting an eyelid. Phew, at this moment, Chen Hao let out a long sigh of relief and opened his eyes. After activating Shi Chao's godhead to suppress, Chen Hao finally absorbed all 7 lives into his soul palace and suppressed them. Finally, I've survived. I didn't expect the 8 lives to be so strong after fusing together. Even with my soul power, it almost collapsed. What a monster. Cough cough, it seems like it's all me. After returning to his original appearance and completely suppressing the 7 lives, Chen Hao felt extremely relaxed. His mood became exceptionally comfortable in an instant. The 7 clones were all settled, and it was impossible for them to cause any more trouble. Without a doubt, Chen Hao's worries were solved. He only needed some time to completely fuse with them. Moreover, he had been hiding under the Great Change technique for all these years. Although it did not affect his strength, when he undid the concealment at this time, whether it was his mood, state of mind, or feeling, they all became incomparably bright. It was as refreshing as unsheathing the sword of raising eyebrows. The one who was observing me through the barrier must be that old man. Chen Hao had only managed to borrow Shi Chao's godhead after the fiery golden eyes had been fully activated. The fiery golden eyes was an extraordinary ability that could ignore realms. Even a half-step immortal emperor's divine sense could not escape Chen Hao's senses when he sensed that Chen Hao was near him. Although Chen Hao did not recognize the aura of this spiritual sense, even if he used his toes to think, he could guess that it belonged to a celestial river king, whose spiritual sense could pass through the barrier without being discovered by the arbitration team. Or should I say, even if I find out, I will pretend not to know. Except for the strongest person in the great world of Xiandi, the half-step immortal Emperor Celestial River King, no one else could achieve such a feat. Otherwise, if any expert could secretly send out their divine sense to interfere with the competition, wouldn't that be terrible? However, even though he knew that the other party had probed him, Chun Hao couldn't say anything. After all, it was just probing, and the other party didn't interfere with him. Besides, even if he interfered, what could he do? The strongest person, the pinnacle existence, had no rules in front of him, because he represented the rules. This was a world where the strong were respected. Can I announce the end now? Chun Hao calmed down and said lightly, with the demeanor of an expert. He deliberately emphasized, I am De Hua Li Yuan. Walla, the martial arts arena, which was still immersed in great shock, was broken by Chun Hao's calm and indifferent words. De Hua Li Yuan. Brother Fatty. No, handsome guy. So strong, so handsome. Li Yuan. I love you. Li Yuan. I love you. All kinds of exclamations and screams broke out. Some female disciples couldn't resist the admiration for Chun Hao in their hearts and directly became Chun Hao's crazy fans. Do you see it? My eyes are bright. This is his true appearance. So handsome. I found that I really fell in love with him. Xian, do you regret it? What are you talking about? What's the use of a handsome man? What do I regret? Pft, who was the one who kept saying that I liked a fatty with a terrible appearance? It's fine. If you regret it, just say it. You are me, I am you. Aren't we just Tao companions? We can share. Ruolan looked at the cold and arrogant Ruo Xian charmingly and teased. In reality, she and Chun Hao hadn't even started dating yet. However, the teasing between sisters didn't affect them. However, after Ruolan said this, Ruo Xian turned her head and looked directly into her eyes. She didn't say anything for a long time, and her gaze became extremely complicated with a trace of surprise. For the first time, Ruolan, who had always seen people through their eyes, couldn't understand the Ruo Xian she was most familiar with. What's wrong with you? Ruolan couldn't help but ask. You know? Ruo Xian asked a question that Ruolan didn't understand. Know what? Xian, I can't understand your eyes. Could it be that you're hiding something? I'm your best sister. You're so unkind. Ruo Xian was slightly stunned and immediately avoided Ruolan's gaze. It's nothing. No, you have to make it clear. What do I know? It's good that you don't know. We're the best sisters. Everything is enough. What do you say? I don't want to lose you. Ruo Xian's cold and arrogant face showed a touch of bitterness. I know. You also like him, and you don't want to share with me, right? Xian, you can't do this. You know, he already has many Tao companions. If we go together, we'll be more competitive. Ruo Xian was speechless, but this time she didn't deny it. Instead, she looked at Ruolan seriously and pretended to ponder for a moment before nodding heavily. Immediately, Ruolan intimately buried her head in Ruo Xian's majestic twin peaks with a happy face. It seemed that she had completely forgotten that the object of their discussion was just a kid from the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Ruo Xian stared at Chun Hao, who returned to the top 10 contestants, and then looked in the direction of the Star River King with a complicated gaze. An imperceptible emotion flashed through her eyes. Good. Very good kid. I like him very much. Ha ha. Suddenly, the voice of an old woman resounded in everyone's ears as if it came from the ninth heaven. Endless immortal light poured down, and a majestic and unfathomable aura appeared at the same time. At this moment, even the Star River King looked up at the sky with a slight frown. She? King Ying said in surprise. It's her. Qing Wanxiang rubbed his hands excitedly. Luo Ying King? Sword King Qin Taishu looked at the endless immortal light in the ninth heaven with a surprised expression. Luo Ying King, this is Luo Ying King? It's said that she's already. She's still alive, and her aura is very strong. Chapter 1433. Master! Shuefian shouted excitedly when she saw the figure. At the same time, she flew toward the figure descending from the ninth heaven. However, she was stopped by an extremely powerful aura. She was Xue Fian's master, Lord Luoying, one of the 8 king-ranked powerhouses in ancient times. No one noticed that Ruoxian was surprised when she saw the figure. Her body trembled slightly, and she was even more excited than Xue Fian. This was Lord Luoying, who had lived in seclusion in Dehua College for countless years. Only Cheng Wanxiang and the other core members knew about her. At this moment, even though her face was covered by a black veil and her body was hidden in a wide black robe, the falling blossom immortal light, that had shaken the world hundreds of millions of years ago, allowed countless top experts to recognize her identity and were incomparably shocked. For tens of millions of years, most people thought that Lord Luoying and the other king-ranked powerhouses had disappeared in the long river of history, and there was no news about them anymore. That was because of one person, the Star River King. The 8 king-ranked powerhouses rose together, and the Star River King led them alone and unified the great world of Xiandi. At that time, only Lord Ing was not affected. The reason was not a secret in the great world of Xiandi. Of course, most people were just guessing, and the specific truth was only known to those involved. Lord Luoying slowly landed on the rostrum in the rolling Tao principles and the colorful Luoying celestial light. Then, she looked at Lord Star River. Luoying, is it really you? You are still alive? Lord Star River, the most powerful person in the great world of Xiandi, seemed to be incoherent with excitement at this moment. His eyes were fixed on Lord Luoying. Not only am I alive, but I have also broken the seal, recovered my cultivation, and improved my cultivation. Are you disappointed? Disappointed? Luoying, how could I be disappointed? Back then, I looked for you for countless years. Both of you. Humph, no need to say more. I don't want to hear it. Lord Luoying waved her hand and interrupted Lord Star River. Luoying. Lord Ing swayed and came to Lord Luoying's side. How have you been all these years? I thought you. Ing, I'm fine. You're still so beautiful. I'm sorry. Don't say that, we are good sisters, the best of sisters, forever. Queen Ing held Queen Luoying's hand, her expression emotional, her eyes sparkling uncontrollably. Star River King, King Ing, and King Luoying seemed to have a very complicated relationship. That's for sure. Among the 8 great ancient kings, there were only 2 women, King Ing and King Luoying. Both of them were peerless geniuses, while King Xing He, King of Saber, King of Sword, King of Wind, King of Monkey and King of 9 Serenities were all peerless geniuses. All of them were once young. How could they not have experienced love and hate? In my opinion, Xing He King and Luoying King. If you don't want to die, don't make wild guesses. You guys are really bold. While some of the young cultivators were talking about Celestial River King, King Ing and King Luoying, the Academy's old men immediately stopped them. Why are you dressed like this? Prince Ing could not help but ask. I don't want to scare people. Ing, you really don't blame me? King Luoying stared at the charming King Ing. Her eyes were also sparkling as she asked eagerly. I have never blamed you. Sit with me. Ing, let's talk about it later. I'm here mainly to see the performance of our Dehua Academy's Li Yuan. Although King Luoying's voice was very soft, it was clearly heard by everyone. Obviously, she was deliberately expressing her attitude. Li Yuan? Dehua Academy? The crowd suddenly became restless. It was a pity that Chen Hao, who was sealed in the arena, could not hear it. Otherwise, he would be surprised too. So you've been living in seclusion in Dehua Academy? King Ing was slightly surprised but also delighted. That's right. Is Li Yuan your disciple? King Ing asked deliberately. The appearance of King Luoying was undoubtedly a good thing for her. Knowing that King Luoying had specially come to watch Li Yuan's competition, she naturally wanted to help Chen Hao strengthen his momentum. because even if she and King of Sword Chen Taishu joined forces, they would not have any confidence in defeating the powerful Celestial River King. No, but he's my disciple's future cultivation partner, which is also my Tu Su. Ah? Master! Xue Fian screamed directly. Her originally cold face instantly turned red. Undoubtedly, her master's words made her certain that the so-called fated person was Chen Hao. However, until now, she and Chen Hao had only become brothers and sisters. There were no sparks at all. Or rather, there was no chance for any sparks to fly between them. However, her master had said so in front of everyone, especially when everyone around her knew that she had jumped into the air and called King Luo Ying master. How could she not be shy? She wanted to find a hole to hide in. I didn't know, Sister Fian. Ao Qian said. Sister Fian, brother's heart hurts. Although I had a hunch, when I really found out, it was still. Ling Feng deliberately teased. Don't talk nonsense. It's not what you think. That was just my master's prediction. That's even more true. The legendary King Luo Ying King was most proficient in the art of divination. Wasn't that the art of divination? I know that. Ling Feng said confidently. At this moment, Ruoxian bit her lips and looked at King Luo Ying with a complicated gaze. Was Tu Su just Tu Su? King of Swords Chen Taishu was speechless. Tu Su again? Li Yuan of Dehua wins. At this moment, the host's voice finally sounded and announced Li Yuan's victory. Although this was an extra battle to determine the top 10 candidates, everyone was sure that this was an extremely exciting battle. It was a battle that was rarely seen even in the top 10. Li Yuan of Dehua had won. Chen Tianhe, who was estimated to be the strongest, had disappeared and became a part of Li Yuan's original body. This made Li Yuan of Dehua become the champion, overshadowing the number 1 Grand Luo of the Shao clan, Shao Jiutian. I will now officially announce the top 10 candidate. The rankings are Shao Jiutian, Ning Jing, Li Yuan, Miao Xian, Qin Yang, Bu Chen, Kong Ying, Bai Hua, Lu Fei and Fan Jianchen. Fan Jianchen was a new contestant, and he was ranked 11th in the previous evaluation. Now, those who think that they are stronger than any of the top 10 candidates can start the challenge. If they succeed, they will become one of the top 10 candidates. If they fail, they will be removed from the top 10. However, they will still have one chance to challenge. I believe everyone is clear about the rules. Alright, let's begin. The host announced. I'll go. As soon as the host finished speaking, a young cultivator from the top 100 who had an imposing appearance and reserved spirit stepped out and took the lead to enter the ring. Su Junfeng, Academy, none. The moment this cultivator stepped onto the stage, his information was displayed in the air above the stage. Everyone was certain that he was a hidden monster that had just appeared. Chapter 1434. I was eliminated by Su Junfeng. He's definitely a hidden expert. He was in the same group as me in the preliminary round, and his aura wasn't anything special. But when I challenged him, he easily defeated me. After that, he didn't attract anyone's attention and entered the top 100. I knew that he was hiding his strength, and he's really challenging the top 10. He was the one who eliminated me in the 3rd round. I initially thought that I had underestimated him, but I never expected that he would dare to challenge the top 10. It looks like he's hiding quite a bit. Immediately, many cultivators in the crowd began to discuss contestants who could enter the top 100. If they were not seeded contestants, they must have eliminated many cultivators. Even if they kept a low profile, those who had been eliminated were still aware of the situation. But even if he's hiding quite a bit, he shouldn't be that strong. If I'm not wrong, Su Junfeng's opponent must be Fan Jianchen. That's for sure. Fan Jianchen is undoubtedly the weakest among the top 10. He's even weaker than Lu Fei, not to mention the others. As Su Junfeng's gaze slowly swept across the top 10 contestants' seats in the ring, choosing his opponent to challenge, the crowd buzzed with discussion. Su Junfeng started looking at Xiao Jiutian until he saw Fan Jianchen. Suddenly, his gaze shifted and locked onto Bu Chen. Everyone was surprised. Su Junfeng wasn't going to challenge Fan Jianchen, who was the weakest. "I challenge Bu Chen." At this moment, Su Junfeng said in a low voice. At the same time, his originally restrained aura suddenly exploded out with a bang, and his battle intent soared. "What?" Bu Chen was startled. His brows knitted together and his eyes flashed with anger. Bu Chen was the eldest disciple of the Snowdrift Academy's Daluo Golden Wonderland. He was much stronger than Linghu Piaoxue, who had participated in the performance. Although Bu Chen didn't dare to say that he could enter the top 3, he had a high chance of entering the top 5. It wouldn't be a problem for him to enter the 6th. But the first challenger actually chose him. This made him feel that Su Junfeng was trying to humiliate him. After all, challengers usually chose the weakest, so why would Su Junfeng choose him? The spectators were also shocked. They never expected that Su Junfeng would actually challenge Bu Chen. At the same time, they were shocked by the aura that Su Junfeng had suddenly erupted at this moment. What a powerful aura! Could this Su Junfeng be the spirit of all living things? It should be. Is this his true strength? His aura is indeed powerful, and it's not any weaker than Bu Chen's. I understand now. Su Junfeng doesn't want to hide anything anymore. Now that the top 10 is determined, he directly challenged someone like Bu Chen. That way there's a small chance that the other challengers will choose him. That way we can avoid continuous battles. Yes, that should be the case. Humph, challenge me? You have indeed hidden quite a bit, but this kind of aura is only barely on par with my current aura. Do you think I haven't hidden anything? If you had challenged someone else, you might have had a chance. Unfortunately, you overestimated yourself and dared to challenge me. Then let me, Bu Chen, end your competition. Come on. Bu Chen's figure flickered, and he appeared before Su Junfeng. His battle intent soared, and flames of fury burned within him. Really? It's not up to you to decide who ends the competition. Su Junfeng looked at Bu Chen with disdain. Ha ha! How arrogant! Since that's the case, I'll show you my true strength. Don't admit defeat if you have the guts. I'll crush you. Boom! Bu Chen's aura suddenly exploded. Dao laws surged and runes flickered. In the blink of an eye, gusts of wind formed around him. They spun faster and faster, turning into a terrifying whirlwind. Shockwaves spread out, causing the space around the Deerchaser Peak to violently fluctuate. The everlasting helix art. I never thought that senior brother Bu Chen would use one of the Snowdrift Academy's 3 great techniques, the everlasting helix art. Senior brother Bu Chen is clearly furious. This whirlwind can be used both offensively and defensively. It'll be even more terrifying if it's used together with the universal snowfall art. Of course. But the everlasting helix art should be enough to deal with Su Junfeng. The Snowdrift Academy's disciples discussed. They knew how terrifying Bu Chen was, so they were naturally confident in him. Su Junfeng didn't panic at all when he saw Bu Chen's terrifying attack. Su Junfeng, die for me! Bu Chen roared and slammed his palms forward. Whoosh! The terrifying hurricane vortex, the power contained within increased by several times in an instant, charging towards Su Junfeng with an astonishing momentum. When the whirlwind arrived before Su Junfeng, he suddenly unleashed a series of profound runes that circled around the whirlwind to attack Bu Chen's vitals. They blocked Bu Chen's path of escape from all directions. What was even more terrifying was that Su Junfeng didn't retreat. Instead, he charged forward and charged into the whirlwind under everyone's shocked gazes. At this moment, Su Junfeng's body was covered in a dazzling golden light. It was as if he had turned into a golden man as he threw out a palm. Boom! A tyrannical power gushed out like a flash flood. Rumble! In an instant, the whirlwind shattered like a flower in a mirror. Then, the golden palm landed on Buchen's body. Boom! Whoosh! Buchen was sent flying like a kite with a broken string as blood spurted out from his mouth. It took a full minute for Buchen to fall from the sky and crash into the ground. He struggled to get up, but he couldn't. Countless spectators were shocked when they saw a golden palm imprint on Buchen's armor. To be more precise, it was a golden palm imprint that pierced through the armor and flesh. No one dared to believe that this was the result. The Snowdrift Academy's chief disciple was definitely in the middle of the top 10. But Buchen, who was extremely powerful in everyone's hearts, had lost so easily. Moreover, he had lost so thoroughly. Buchen had been careless, but the main reason was that Su Junfeng was too strong. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air, and the way they looked at Su Junfeng quietly underwent a subtle change. Buchen was defeated, and Su Junfeng was victorious. After the host announced the result of the battle, a resplendent light enveloped the heavily injured Buchen and sent him off the stage. As for the victor, Su Junfeng, he stepped into the top 10. Continue. My turn. Whoosh. As soon as the host finished speaking, the second challenger impatiently stepped into the ring. Chapter 1435. Tang Haotian Academy. None. Like Su Junfeng, Tang Haotian didn't belong to any academy or power. Without giving the audience time to guess, Tang Haotian immediately announced his opponent, Bai Hua, as soon as he stepped onto the stage. In the eyes of the crowd, Bai Hua and Lu Fei were on the same level. Bai Hua was only slightly stronger than Fan Jianchen, but they were both weaker in the top 10. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that Tang Haotian challenged her. However, Bai Hua was only weak when compared to heaven-defying characters like Xiao Jiutian and Chen Hao. She was a terrifying existence to cultivators in the same realm. Since he dares to challenge her, he should have at least a 20% chance of winning. That was what most people thought. In the past, at least 7 of the top 10 would be able to retain their position. On average, the challengers only had a 30% chance of winning. Furthermore, those who were eliminated were the 3 weakest in the top 10. But unexpectedly, the unknown Tang Haotian ended his battle in the time it took to brew a cup of tea and heavily injured Bai Hua. Even with the energy recovery, Bai Hua wouldn't be able to recover to her peak in a short period of time. This meant that Bai Hua was the same as Buchen after being eliminated. This was undoubtedly cruel. It also made everyone realize how terrifying the hidden experts this time were. But what shocked the crowd even more were the next few battles. In the third battle, Wei Wufa challenged Fan Jianchen and won. Fan Jianchen was heavily injured and couldn't fight anymore. In the fourth battle, Zhan Yuanzhao challenged Lu Fei and won. Lu Fei was heavily injured and couldn't fight anymore. In the fifth battle, Song Longyuan challenged Kong Ing and won. Kong Ing was defeated. Kong Ing was the soul of all things in the Emperor Star's secret realm that Chen Hao had entered. He had displayed shocking strength in the group test, but he was defeated. What was even more terrifying was that Kong Ing, who couldn't break through the shackles of the Grand Tao, couldn't change the situation even after activating his godhead. The soul of all things, Kong Ing, was defeated. Who else wants to challenge? The host's voice carried a trace of shock as he swept his gaze across the top 100. Not to mention an expert like him, even the top powerhouses on the rostrum did not expect this year's battle of the top 10 to be so cruel. This was because even they could not tell who was hiding their aura in the top 100. Up until now, 5 people had already been eliminated, which was 50%. This was simply inconceivable. Those who want to challenge, please get on the stage quickly. The host asked again when he saw no response from the crowd. In his opinion, if someone were to challenge him again, no matter who it was, no matter whether they succeeded or not, it would still be a shocking matter. After all, up until now, the 5 people who had not been challenged were Xiao Jiutian, Ning Jing, Li Yuan, Miao Xian, and Qin Yang. They were all terrifying existences. No one doubted this. One was Xiao family's number 1 Daluo Jinxian, the other was Jade Maiden Palace's number 1 Daluo Jinxian, and 2 were Sword King's direct disciples. As for Li Yuan, there was no need to even mention him. As for the 5 who succeeded in the challenge, Song Long Yuan, who defeated Kong Ying, was definitely an existence close to Miao Xian and Qin Yang in the eyes of the crowd. Whether he was stronger or not, they would only know after the battle. The other 4 had also won in a strong manner. Just based on their performance, it was enough to place them in the top 10. Not to mention, they might not have revealed their strongest strength yet. However, no one else wants to challenge? Just when everyone thought that the top 10 list was about to be confirmed, an inconspicuous figure stepped out from the top 100 and said indifferently, "Since there's no one else, I'll do it." Chi. With a single step, the figure appeared in the arena. Gu Xian, school faction, none. Similarly, there was only one name, Gu Xian. "I'll choose you." Gu Xian's gaze locked onto one person and said indifferently, "Qin Yang." It can't be? He dares to challenge Qin Yang? He's simply courting death. Arrogant and ignorant, how can he compare to senior brother Qin Yang? You have to know that in our Zhulu Academy, senior brother Qin Yang can contend with Chen Tianhe. I don't know why senior brother Qin Yang gave up during the chief disciple selection. Yes, Master Zhentian said that senior brother Qin Yang's state of mind has already reached the realm of being as kind as water, invulnerable to all technique. Although he has the body of a sword emperor, he's not inferior to his junior sister Miao Xian, who has the body of a sword emperor. More importantly, he's the Sword King's disciple. I don't dare to say that he's number 1, but he definitely has hopes of being in the top 3. That's right, this Gu Xian is really arrogant, full of arrogance. Even though Gu Xian, who had a tall and slender figure, sword-like brows, starry eyes, and an extraordinary bearing, didn't say the name of the person he challenged, his gaze clearly told everyone that the person he challenged was Qin Yang. This directly caused the crowd to explode. The Zhulu Academy disciples were even more incredulous, thinking that Gu Xian was courting death. Without Chen Tianhe, Qin Yang, who had already displayed his brilliance several times in the academy, especially at the end of the chief disciple selection, and almost didn't have a showdown with Chen Tianhe. At this moment, he was definitely the hope of Zhulu Academy. Of course, there was also Miao Xian. Me? Qin Yang stood with his hands behind his back, facing Gu Xian's gaze, stepped out from the crowd and smiled faintly. "Looks like in your eyes I'm the weakest. That's not it. In my eyes you're ranked 4th or 5th. I disdain to fight those weaker than you, and it's naturally better to leave those stronger than you for later. Therefore, I challenge you." "All right, then let's begin. Be mentally prepared. I'm a person who doesn't show mercy. This day next year may be the anniversary of your death." Gu Xian's voice was still indifferent, as if he was talking about something that couldn't be more normal. Voila, but Gu Xian's words directly caused the crowd to explode. "Too arrogant. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It's impossible to even defeat Qin Yang, and you still want to kill him." Countless spectators were extremely displeased with Gu Xian's arrogance, especially the Zhulu Academy cultivators. Killing someone required much more strength than defeating someone. Unless it was an absolute suppression and a one-hit kill, causing the token's protection to be unable to activate in time, it was impossible to do so. To be able to seriously injure someone like the previous 5 people was already very impressive. However, the buzz of discussion turned into absolute silence in an instant. A terrifying pressure quietly spread out from Gu Xian's body. Like his indifferent expression, there wasn't too much of a fluctuation of aura, but it directly affected the cultivators' hearts. Invincible momentum. And it was an invincible momentum that was terrifyingly strong. Even compared to the invincible momentum that Chen Hao and Chen Tianhe had previously displayed, it was much stronger. At the same time, a mysterious seal with an ancient aura appeared between Gu Xian's eyebrows. It was like a godhead, but its aura was completely different, causing people to not dare to look at it directly. Qin Yang frowned slightly. Chapter 1436. Clang. Qin Yang unsheathed his sword. The sharp sword essence cut through the sky, but it couldn't erase the influence of Gu Xian's invincible momentum. That surprised Qin Yang and made him feel uneasy. His state of mind was as kind as water and invincible. Even Chen Tianhe, who ranked first in the previous evaluation, couldn't give him such a feeling. Is it because of the rune? Qin Yang thought. Then he said in a low voice, "It's useless to say more. Come on." At that moment, Chen Hao and the others were also staring at the rune between Gu Xian's eyebrows in shock. "It's your bad luck to be chosen by me. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. It's not too late to admit defeat. Otherwise, you'll lose your life." Gu Xian said. "You talk too much." Qin Yang, who was not easily angered, was irritated by Gu Xian's arrogance. He said, "I'd like to see if you can kill me. You're dreaming." Gu Xian's face darkened. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said calmly but aggressively, "Since you think so, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. What a pity. Come on, I'll give you 3 moves." At this moment, the ancient seal on Gu Xuanmei's soul altar suddenly doubled in strength. The invincible momentum was like a mountain pressing down on Qin Yang's heart. She looked at Qin Yang as if he was looking at a dead man. Such a strong momentum. Through the bounded domain, the onlookers were all shocked. Even masters like Sword King Chen Taishu were no exception. Such a strong momentum and invincible momentum must have been honed through countless bloody battles. However, Gu Xian's life aura was only 30,000 years old. Even if he fought every day, it would be difficult for him to reach such a level. Whoosh! Qin Yang didn't speak again. Instead, he walked toward Gu Xian with his sword in hand. He didn't fly in the air. He just approached step by step. With every step, his sword essence became stronger and weaker because of the influence of Gu Xian's invincible momentum. 5 steps, 10 steps. The sharp sword essence was finally formed. The sword essence was formed. The suppression of the invincible momentum finally disappeared. It's time. Qi. At this moment, Gu Xian smiled as if everything was under his control. The truth was just as Gu Xian had said. Qin Yang raised his sword and attacked. Rumble. The surrounding air was directly detonated by the sharp sword energy. "Sword breaks the universe!" Qin Yang shouted. At the moment when the sword intent and fighting spirit soared to the peak, he took the initiative to attack. Heaven, earth, man, and sword merged into one, forming a heavenly sword light. He arrived in front of Gu Xian and stabbed out. One move. When Qin Yang's sword light was about to pierce Gu Xian's heart, the ancient seal between Gu Xian's eyebrows suddenly lit up. His body instantly turned into a gust of wind and mysteriously dodged Qin Yang's attack. Sword shaking the 9 heavens. 2 moves. Sword devours the world. 3 moves. The sword light and the sword intent and power that each move carried were extremely shocking. It was much stronger than the previous few battles, and it also clearly allowed everyone to see how terrifying Qin Yang's battle strength was. However, what made everyone feel even more terrified was Gu Xian. It was still the same indifferent and arrogant voice, but when it was spoken under Qin Yang's sharp and powerful attack, it gave people a completely different feeling. That nimble and fleeting figure actually easily received 3 of Qin Yang's moves, displaying an extremely high level of strength. I didn't see it wrongly, right? How can Gu Xian be so strong? 3 moves, he actually gave Qin Yang 3 moves, and he's fine. What a mysterious ability! Qin Yang's attack is not weak, but he could actually take it so miraculously, and there wasn't even a bit of a head-on collision. It's incredible! Gu Xian's strength has really reached a terrifying level. From the looks of it, the words he said earlier were not merely arrogant words to infuriate Qin Yang. The onlookers discussed. 3 moves have passed. Your strength is indeed not bad, but unfortunately, compared to me, Gu Xian, there is still a gap. I gave you a chance, but you didn't take it. Okay, let's end it here. Boom! Along with Gu Xian's voice, a golden light column suddenly shot out from his body, soaring into the sky. In an instant, a terrifying and mysterious energy fluctuation crazily spread to the surroundings. Whoosh! A fierce wind blew, gravel flew, the mountains shook, and the earth wailed. The scene of the underworld appeared again. So powerful! It's much clearer than the scene that appeared in Li Yuan's mind, too powerful. Could it be that Gu Xian has reached the realm of yin and yang as one? It should be. His current aura is very strong, obviously different from Li Yuan's yin attack. He has reached the realm of yin and yang as one. Countless people cried out in surprise and disgust. Gu Xian's body slowly rose into the void, with golden light shining everywhere, and his essence, qi, and spirit seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 lands. He looked like a god descending, especially the ancient seal between his eyebrows, which was more like an ancient immortal emperor. A terrifying pressure swept across the world, crossing yin and yang. Not to mention Qin Yang, who bore the brunt of it. Even the practitioners on the boundary clearly felt Gu Xian's terror. Thump! At this moment, Gu Xian's tongue blossomed like a golden lotus, and he seemed to casually point at Qin Yang. Whoosh! A huge golden finger that shook the world was formed in an instant, and wherever it passed, the energy of heaven and earth was directly swallowed into a vacuum. It grew bigger and bigger, and the sky changed color. In the eyes of the onlooking practitioners, Gu Xian's finger seemed to be sucking up all the energy of heaven and earth, destroying everything, and even heaven and earth could not bear its power. In the end, it was really only the size of a finger, but the power it contained was extremely condensed and terrifying. Senior brother, watch out! At this moment, even Miao Xian was shocked, and she could not help but exclaim, "What a freak!" Chen Hao's pupils also contracted, and he was shocked. Even he did not expect Gu Xian to be so powerful. Gu Xian's absolute power was not very strong. To be exact, it was on par with Qin Yang, and in Chen Hao's eyes, it was definitely inferior to him. However, his casual finger contained the aura of the great Tao of Supreme, and the power of heaven and earth that was used to an unbelievable extent. All matter, all laws, all energy, including time, space, past, present, and future, seemed to be contained in the changes of this finger. Heaven and earth were used by it. Roar! Feeling the huge pressure, Qin Yang let out a long roar, and crazily urged his power to condense his strongest sword. All the power in his body, all his cultivation, gathered into the sword and condensed into the sword. As the emperor of sword puppets, he had the unyielding spirit. Once the battle started, he would definitely charge forward bravely, no matter how strong the enemy was. Chapter 1437. Oh no! Sword King Chen Taishu's expression changed before the attacks of the two clashed. Unfortunately, no one could stop it. Boom! Rumble! When the attacks met, there was an explosion. Terrifying energy waves spread in all directions. Both the onlookers and the spectators in the immortal realm were horrified. The sword radiance was annihilated. The terrifying golden finger radiance swallowed the energy of the sword radiance and became stronger. Puff! The moment the sword radiance was destroyed, Qin Yang was like a kite with a broken string. Under the terrifying recoil, the yin-yang gods were severely injured and flew backward. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood which dyed the sky red. His strongest attack, which had gathered all his cultivation and all his strength, was so weak in front of Gu Xian. Qin Yang had never expected this. Just at that moment, after the golden finger of light engulfed the sword light, it continued to charge towards Qin Yang with unparalleled speed under Gu Xian's control. At that moment, countless people cried out in surprise. Everyone's gazes were focused on that astonishing finger. Heaven and earth dimmed and the void became a vacuum. No, to be exact, it was a void. Everything was swallowed up. Only this golden finger existed between heaven and earth. It was as if it controlled heaven and earth and controlled all living things. Qin Yang, whose mind had been captured and the yin-yang gods seriously injured, watched the golden finger radiance grow larger in his eyes. The shadow of death shrouded his body and mind. As a sword puppet, his pride and decisiveness made him make a choice in the shortest time possible. He screamed crazily and his primordial spirit left his body. Bang! Rumble! In the next moment, the golden finger radiance pierced through his forehead. Then, his body exploded like a human bomb. His flesh and blood splattered and turned into ashes in the terrifying energy explosion. Senior brother! Miao Xian flew toward the arena with a bang sound. Her face was filled with extreme fear, and tears instantly filled her eyes. Qin Yang's past flowed in her heart. He doted on her like a real brother, loved her, led her and protected her. If she hadn't entered Zhulu Academy, Miao Xian wouldn't have known that her senior brother had always been stronger than her. However, she had only caught up with Qin Yang after the yin-yang fusion with the abnormal Chun Hao in the Emperor Star's secret realm. But now, his physical body was destroyed. Qin Yang's primordial spirit, which had abandoned his physical body and escaped, immediately turned into a gust of wind and blended into the world. Please show mercy, Qin Yang admits defeat. At this moment the Sword King, Chen Taishu, could no longer hold back. He rose into the air and called out. His voice directly condensed into a line, passing through the powerful seal and entering Gu Xian's ears. Chen Taishu was clear that even if Qin Yang's primordial spirit merged with the world, he would not be able to escape Gu Xian's pursuit in the relatively narrow space of the arena. Chi, rays of finger light shot out from Gu Xian's hand. Sorry, it's too late. I've already used my ultimate move, and I can't take it back. I gave him a chance, but he didn't cherish it. He can't blame me. To me, it's nothing more than merging with all things in the world. No, senior brother, Miao Xuan shouted frantically. Unfortunately, she couldn't even get close to the barrier, let alone save Qin Yang. Boom! Rumble! A terrifying explosion occurred once again. Qin Yang's already heavily injured primordial spirit collapsed in a state of extreme fear and unwillingness. His primordial spirit was destroyed. The Sword King, Chen Taishu's expression darkened as he froze in the void. No matter what, he had never thought that his disciple Qin Yang would die in the competition. Moreover, he was killed by a cultivator of the same level as him. There was only sword in his heart and no woman. Therefore, he, who had never had any children, regarded Qin Yang and Miao Xuan as his own. Therefore, at this moment, even though he was a true immortal king, he was furious. What a ruthless kid! Chen Taishu said sternly. Although he tried his best to suppress his anger, the aura around him still became extremely terrifying in an instant. Clang! 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 Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, almost all the cultivators with swords on Zhulu Peak were shocked to the extreme as they felt the vibrations and roars of their swords in the space of their minds. For those with weaker cultivations, their swords flew out from between their eyebrows uncontrollably. In the immortal world, due to the live broadcast of the simulated aura, the same situation happened to the swords of the cultivators. Sword King. Million Swords greeting. This is the aura of a real Sword King? It's too terrifying. Everyone was stunned as they stared in horror at the sword-like figure standing in the air. The King of Sword Kings. Even the Star River King stared at the Sword King Chen Taishu in surprise. He was sure that Chen Taishu had grown into a real Sword King. Even if the Sword King of the same generation as him was born, he could only avoid the attack. Otherwise, the scene of million swords greeting would not appear. It was only when the real Sword King's aura appeared that all the sword souls reacted. At this moment, a voice suddenly came into Chen Taishu's ears. Uncle, after the enchantment of the arena is activated, you can seal the space of the arena and seal all of Qin Yang's aura. Don't forget yourself. After all, you are one of the most powerful immortal emperors. You can't blame others for Qin Yang's death in a fair battle. Don't worry, I have a way to resurrect him. Chen Taishu was shocked and looked at the top 10 contestants in front of the arena. At the same time, he restrained his aura. However, Chen Hao was the same as the others. On the surface, there was nothing unusual. Uncle, don't look at me like that. Don't you trust me? Can you really do it? Of course, Xiao Nan is a person who died once. His body and soul were destroyed. He was resurrected a long time after his death. At that time, he was in the Hongmeng domain. His aura did not dissipate much due to the concealment of Heaven's secret. The enchantment of this arena also contains the qi of Hongmeng. There should be no problem. What should I do? You seal all of Qin Yang's aura and don't let it leak out. Buy me 2 more hours. That is to stop the battle and let me use the arena. As soon as possible, the sooner the better. Okay. After a brief moment of shock, Chen Taishu said straightforwardly. Although he did not know how Chen Hao could resurrect Qin Yang, he chose to believe him. Seal. Chen Taishu waved his hand, and extremely mysterious runes suddenly shot out. They were like rays of sword light, and they directly arrived above the arena. Then, they poured down and formed a layer of light screen, sealing the arena. Brother Chen. Everyone was shocked, and the Celestial River King frowned slightly before shouting out. In everyone's opinion, the Sword King Chen Taishu might be angry out of shame. Ha ha ha, this is one of the most powerful people in the great world of Xiendi, the new Sword King? You died in a fair battle. Are you going to violate the rules? Gu Xian said proudly in the arena. It seemed that he was not afraid at all. Chapter 1439. Brother Chen, I understand how you feel, but a competition is a competition. Brother Xiao, you misunderstood me. I don't want to violate the rules. I just don't want my disciple's aura to leak out. I need some time to resurrect my disciple. Is that okay? Chen Taishu, the Sword King, interrupted the Star River King. What? Chen Taishu's words shocked the Star River King and all the cultivators. Brother Chen, you said you can resurrect your disciple? I can't. Then my Tu Su should be able to. Tu Su? The Star River King didn't think much of it. Naturally, he knew who Tu Su was. Therefore, after hearing Chen Taishu's words, he looked directly at Chen Hao, who was sitting in the contestant's seat, with a look of surprise. He didn't think Chen Hao would talk nonsense at this time. That was to say, Chen Hao should really have this ability. I need about 2 hours. Members of the arbitration team, Brother Xiao, King Ying, I wonder if that's okay? Of course. It is said that only the powerhouses in the immortal Emperor realm can resurrect a cultivator whose body and soul have been destroyed. Before this, the great world of Xiendi has never appeared. If Li Yuanjun can do it, resurrecting a genius like Qin Yang will undoubtedly be a good thing for the immortal Emperor's grand thousand world. Secondly, it will also broaden our horizons, and perhaps we can gain some insights. The Star River King said without hesitation. He pointed out Chen Hao's name. Whoosh! At this moment, countless cultivators who didn't know who Chen Hao and Tu Su were in an uproar. They all looked at Chen Hao, who had returned to his original appearance, in surprise. It's him. Li Yuan of Dahua. I see. No wonder the Sword King went to Dahua before the competition. It turned out to be for Li Yuan. However, I'm afraid only a monster like Li Yuan is worthy of Miao Xian, who has the body of a sword emperor. I thought Miao Xian was the cultivation partner of her senior brother. I didn't expect it to be Li Yuan. Yes. Brother Fatty is the cultivation partner of the Sword King's disciple, Miao Xian? Awesome, too awesome. Chen Si, Wan Yishui, and that stunning beauty from Parkway Academy came knocking on my door. Fatty Bro's luck with women is truly boundless. Brother Fatty. Cough cough, I'm just used to calling you that. Brother Fatty is so handsome that even heaven and earth can't tolerate it. Not to mention women, even I, as a man, am a little tempted. F***ck so disgusting. However, only senior brother Li Yuan's heaven-defying talent could subdue so many peerless beauties. In short, being handsome is useless. Strength is everything. Of course. At this time, the students of Zhulu Academy and Hua Academy were buzzing with discussion. Many pairs of eyes fell on Chen Hao's handsome figure. Li Yuan's talent in the sword Dao is so strong. It must be related to Miao Xian's primordial yin. Miao Xian is so strong because of Li Yuan's dual cultivation. No wonder the two of them are so strong. How can we compare to a pair of strong cultivators when we are alone? Someone among the top 100 disciples said. Without a doubt, they were jealous of the combination of Chen Hao and Miao Xian. At the same time, he also found a reason why he was not as good as Chen Hao. As expected, Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Long Ting, Xia Yu, Tantai Lian, and the two teachers, Ruolin and Ruoxian, were not very surprised at this time. It just confirmed their guesses. But, when did Brother Hao learn the Supreme Resurrection Divine ability? Brother Hao should let me go, right? The little nurse, Lu Hui, said. Tracing the origin, reorganizing the life imprint and nirvana rebirth. This was the immortal emperor ability awakened by Lu Hui. Back then, when she saved Chen Nan, Du Jing, and Du Jing's Dao companion, Lin Xia, she had used it once. Now, her realm was much higher than before. Moreover, in the sealed arena, she was confident that she could revive Qing Yang immediately. However, the premise was that Chen Hao's energy supply was still necessary. Otherwise, with her own energy, she could not revive Qing Yang in a short time. However, when Chen Hao calmly stepped into the arena's boundary under the eyes of tens of thousands of people, he did not call out to her. He only looked in her direction and nodded slightly. This meant that Chen Hao could do it himself. Lu Hui did not find it strange. In fact, she did not find it strange that Chen Hao could do anything. You can revive him? When Chen Hao calmly stepped into the arena under the eyes of tens of thousands of people, Gu Xian, who had killed Qing Yang, stared at Chen Hao condescendingly. His eyes were full of disdain and suspicion. In order to prevent Qing Yang's aura from leaking out, Gu Xian could not step out of the boundary set up by Chen Taishu after the seal on the arena was removed. Of course, this was also because Gu Xian did not ask to step out. Chen Hao turned his head and glanced at Gu Xian, but did not answer. He was blatantly ignoring him. Maybe you don't know what kind of divine ability I used? Not to mention that you are just a Daluo Jinxian who awakened the immortal emperor's inheritance. Even if you recovered to the real immortal emperor, you can't do it. Gu Xian snorted coldly. He was very unhappy with Chen Hao's disregard. Since ancient times, no one in the 9 heavens and 10 earths could ignore him. Even if he was just a small Daluo Jinxian at this moment, he could not do it. He dared to stand here, kill Qing Yang, and challenge Sword King Chen Taishu. Naturally, he had his own confidence. Is that so? Hearing Gu Xian's words, Chen Hao, who had already stepped past Gu Xian, stopped and turned his head to look at Gu Xian again. At this moment, His calm face revealed a touch of arrogance. You don't believe me? What if I can? Ha ha ha. Is it possible? Even before the war between the immortal realm, devil realm, and god realm, no one who was killed by my nirvana samsara finger could be revived. You? Gu Xian said proudly. Everyone was shocked to the core, and even the celestial river kings were no exception. What did the war between the immortal realm, devil realm, and god realm mean? Even the Star River King, the #1 expert in the great world of CND, knew very little about the war. There was no way to know what had happened that year that caused the death of all the immortal emperors. Gu Xian's words undoubtedly showed that he was the reincarnation of the immortal emperor and had experienced the war. This was undoubtedly an extremely shocking thing. Sure enough, he is the reincarnation of the immortal emperor and has fully awakened. It seems that even in the immortal realm, he was a powerful figure. Yes, no wonder he is so arrogant. It turns out that he is qualified to be arrogant. The shocked crowd buzzed and discussed in a buzz. Nirvana Samsara Finger? Some of the practitioners in the top 100, as well as a few practitioners in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, were surprised by Gu Xian's unique skill. There was no doubt that these people had fully awakened the inheritance of the immortal emperor, including Kong Ing, who had been kicked out of the top 10. Chapter 1440. The Nirvana Samsara Finger is a unique skill of the celestial world that evolved from the combination of the Great Samsara skill and the Great Destruction skill. It's rated as a celestial master's unique skill. Nirvana Samsara Finger, only death and no life. Could Gu Xian be the reincarnation of a celestial master in the celestial world? The spirits of all living things who had fully awakened the inheritance of the celestial emperor looked at Gu Xian in shock. The Nirvana Samsara Finger was an extremely powerful unique skill in the celestial world. Ordinary celestial emperors would love to have it. Only the most powerful existences among the celestial emperors could obtain this unique skill and cultivate it successfully, a celestial master. A celestial master was a title given to almost invincible experts at the peak of the 9th level of the celestial emperor realm. Their status in the celestial world was the same as the emperor realm King Xing He and King Ing in the great world of CND. They had extremely terrifying power. In the past, only a dozen people in the celestial world had obtained this title. How could everyone not be shocked when Gu Xian used a celestial master's unique skill? If that's the case, Li Yuan can't revive Qin Yang. Everyone thought so. After a short pause, Chen Hao's expression did not change at all as he said coldly, "Just me. Haha, still stubborn? It seems that you are a spirit of all living things who has not fully awakened, right? Do you dare to bet with me?" Gu Xian was slightly stunned and provoked him. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Chen Hao said calmly. "Okay, if you lose, kneel in front of me and call me Grandpa 3 times. Gu Xian said mockingly. The way he looked at Chen Hao was as if he was looking at a prey in his hands. Even he did not expect Chen Hao to save Qin Yang, but it was undoubtedly a good thing that he could not ask for. Who had the most outstanding performance before? Who had gathered the attention of the great world of CND and become the focus of all the participants? It was Chen Hao. To be able to trample him under his feet under everyone's eyes was undoubtedly a very painful thing, and it was definitely something that gathered great luck. Even if this did not happen, Gu Xian would have trampled Chen Hao to death in the subsequent top 10 ranking competition in order to completely avoid Chen Hao's luck. To put it bluntly, this was just an appetizer for him. Kill. No matter who it was, he would kill whoever he met. Only by killing them would one obtain the greatest amount of luck. In this life, he, who had fully awakened his inheritance, was well aware of the importance of luck. Therefore, he ignored Sword King Chen Taishu's pleas and killed Qin Yang. What if you lose? Is it possible? But since it's a gamble, it's naturally fair. Good. You can leave now. After Chun Hao finished speaking, he went to the center of the stage. Let's wait and see, haha. Gu Xian said. When Chun Taishu heard Chun Hao's words, he directly pulled Gu Xian out of the arena. Gu Xian looked calm. He was not worried that Chun Taishu would do anything to him. Will it work? Miao Xian looked at Chun Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, as if he had become a different person. She was nervous and excited. What she was nervous about was whether or not Chun Hao could save Qin Yang. In her heart, Qin Yang was an existence closer to her than her own brother. No matter what, she didn't want Qin Yang to fall just like that. What was excited was Chun Hao at this moment. Miao Xian didn't feel anything about Chun Hao, who had returned to his original appearance. She already knew that when yin and yang merged. When she saw Chun Tianhe, it was even more vivid. What really made her feel excited was Chun Hao's expression and temperament at this moment. His calmness contained peerless arrogance and the air of a king looking down on the world. His calm, dark, and deep eyes were as if everything was under his control. That was the confidence that came from his bones. Others might not be able to see that, but she, who had merged yin and yang with Chun Hao for countless years, could clearly feel it. In short, at this moment, Chun Hao didn't have the scoundrel aura that she hated. It's just the Nirvana Samsara finger. It's just one of the many unique skills of the celestial venerables in the celestial world. Chun Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, looked cold. He couldn't help but say proudly in his heart. After saying that, an imperceptible look of realization appeared on his face. What's going on? That's not what I want, Chun Hao said proudly in his heart. No one knew that at this moment, he was extremely conflicted in the depths of his heart. Actually, when Gu Xian and Qin Yang were fighting, and he just executed the Samsara Nirvana finger, Chun Hao couldn't help but recall the name of this unique skill, the cultivation technique, and the highest profundity of it. At the same time, the method to break it appeared in his mind. It felt as if he'd awakened a memory that was sealed in the depths of his mind for an unknown period of time. If it was anyone else, they would surely be pleasantly surprised. But Chun Hao rejected this feeling, and he even felt an indescribable panic. Because it wasn't what he wanted. He'd said that he only wanted this lifetime. It was fine if he'd only awakened a unique skill inheritance, but if he'd even awakened his past memories, would he still be him? There was no answer, and he couldn't control it. A long time ago, Chun Hao had started to suspect that he wasn't simple. Others couldn't remember the outline of the Great Tao before they'd comprehended it, but he could remember it, and it even existed in his mind like a talisman. The mysterious magic treasure in his mind that was related to the old god, and he still couldn't control it. He was born with great luck in love. Lu Hui, the soul of all living things, and Helian Wuzi, the endless samsara cycle, had chosen him without hesitation, and had chosen this lifetime. There were so many incredible things. Did he really grow up as a mortal? Even Chun Hao himself didn't believe it. But all this while, except for those amazing things, he'd never awakened any inherited memories or unique skills. He'd worked hard step by step to get everything. But today, Gu Xian's Samsara Nirvana finger seemed to have awakened the memories hidden in his mind. I want to comprehend it with my own strength, Chun Hao said firmly in his heart. I don't want everything that's awakened, Master. But at this moment the old god, who rarely spoke, suddenly spoke. There's something I don't know if I should say, the old god said in Chun Hao's mind. Then don't say it, Chun Hao said directly. He knew very well that the old god's words had something to do with his awakened memories. Cough, cough. The old god was speechless. He coughed twice and said directly, Master, don't be like this. I just feel that whether it's awakening or enlightenment, it's all your comprehension. It's yours. Why do you have to reject it? You're you. Whether it's the past life, the present life, or the next life, it's all you. It's just time and space that changes, but your true self is eternal. Is it? What you said makes sense, and I know it, but I just don't like this feeling. That's because you're afraid, Master. It's a kind of fear that comes from the depths of your heart. It's the fear of the past life. Chapter 1441. If a person cannot face their past, if they do not dare to face their past, how can they truly control their present life? The past you are you, the present you are you, and the future you will still be you. This is a fact that cannot be changed. If you abandon any one of them, you will still be incomplete. The old divinity said in a low voice. His voice didn't contain any supernatural powers, only pure words. But at this moment, fear, is it fear? Face the past, abandon any one of them. I am incomplete. Chern Hao's mind was in tumultuous waves. He repeated the old divinity's words over and over again. These words were simple, direct, and easy to understand. Chern Hao knew and understood them, but he never knew where he was wrong. But when the old divinity said the word fear, it was like a slap to the head, rousing Chern Hao from his reverie. Fear. Yes, it was fear. Chern Hao was someone who was filled with arrogance. How could he admit that he was afraid? And how could he believe that he was afraid of the past or his previous life? But now, Chern Hao's so-called insistence that he only wanted this life was nothing more than the fear in the depths of his heart towards the unknown past and uncertain future. You are you in your past life, you are you in your present life, and you will still be you in your next life. The only thing that changes is time and space. The true self is eternal and will never change. The so-called true self is the mark of the source of life. Li Yuan will lose for sure. That's right, it's clear that he can't trace the source. How can an empyrean lost art be broken by the average person? Those killed by the nirvana samsara finger cannot be traced back to the source and revived by an ordinary empyrean. Even if they were sealed in this space, it would still be useless. I never imagined that an empyrean-level spirit of all creation would appear. With this Gu Xian's strength, there isn't much suspense in him winning the championship. That's too early to say. You've all seen that he is strong in the empyrean lost arts and his state of mind. But his absolute strength isn't strong. This is a fatal weakness that no lost art can make up for. That's true. However, no matter what, Li Yuan will definitely have to kneel down and call him Grandpa. Haha, just thinking about it makes me excited. This is the result of being high profile. Some of the spirits of all living things who had already awakened disgust without restraint, especially the spirits of all living things in the top 100. They did not hide anything. Without a doubt, it was because of jealousy. At this moment, when they saw Li Yuan, who was originally in the lead, fall into deep thought, they very much hoped to see the high and mighty Li Yuan, who was in the limelight, make a fool of himself. Serves you right. Previously, he had been in the limelight and attracted the attention of the world. Now that he had fallen flat on his face, he deserved it. Otherwise, he would really think that he was invincible. Laozi despised this kind of people the most. Let's see if he still has the face to stay here and make a fool of himself after he kneels down and calls Brother Gu his grandfather. Brother Gu, if I'm not wrong, even if you're not the reincarnation of a celestial venerable, you're still an existence that's infinitely close to the celestial venerable. Moreover, you're closely related to a certain celestial venerable, right? Haha, I believe that the first place this time will definitely belong to you, Brother Gu. The other two monstrous geniuses, who were also in the top 10, were also gloating and trying to curry favor with Gu Xiandao. Shut up! Miao Xian, who was in the top 10, finally couldn't stop herself from exploding. An incomparably sharp sword intent directly enveloped the two people. Wei Wufa and Zhang Yuanzhao were the two weaker ones among the successful challengers. Shut up? Who do you think you are? Not to mention you, Even your master doesn't have the right to make us shut up. We are free to say whatever we want. Miao Xian, right? No matter what, you have the body of a sword emperor. Moreover, you're quite beautiful. Even if you're not the reincarnation of a celestial emperor, when the great era descends, you still have a high chance of becoming a celestial emperor. Why did you take a fancy to Li Yuan and let him ruin you so early? Otherwise, you're still qualified to be my concubine. Gu Xiandao said as he stared at the furious Miao Xian with an evil gaze. Yes. After losing her body of primordial Yin, she's not even qualified to be Brother Gu's maid. However, I don't mind. After all, she's still a talented beauty. Ha! Wei Wufa said lecherously. Although his gaze was not lecherous, in order to curry favor with Gu Xiandao, who might be the reincarnation of a celestial emperor, he was not stingy with his malicious words. Miao Xian was so angry that her delicate body trembled. However, she knew that not only was she not Gu Xuandao's opponent, it was even more impossible for her to make a move at this time. Facing such a shameless person, all she could do was endure. Endure until her internal organs burned. Endure until her silver teeth were broken and she swallowed them into her stomach. She could only endure. A terrifying sword intent surged inside Miao Xian's body. At this moment she, who had never felt weak, only hated herself for being too weak. She was so weak that she could not even threaten him. Because, if she did, it would be a joke. She had never been so eager to become strong. She wanted to become incomparably strong. She wanted to ignore all rules and smash these scum into pieces. However, she knew that all of this was still very far away from her. Now, the only thing in front of her that was related to the life and death of senior brother Qin Yang was Chen Hao. Was it hope or despair? Miao Xian's eyes were almost bleeding. She once again looked at the figure who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed in contemplation. For the first time, she placed her hope on someone else. Someone who had her but did not belong to her. I understand now. Chen Hao, who seemed to be pondering the method to save Qin Yang with his eyes closed, suddenly took a deep breath and slowly opened his eyes as he muttered to himself. Immediately, the heavenly eye on Chen Hao's forehead reappeared. Rays of dazzling golden light bloomed. He stood up and looked up at the endless void. Open! Chen Hao suddenly exhaled and opened his arms. The dazzling golden light from the heavenly eye did not scatter in all directions. Instead, it gathered into a golden light column and shot up to the sky. Swoosh! The seal of the arena was silently pierced through, but there were no signs of it collapsing. At this moment, the world seemed to come to a standstill, and the endless Tao laws stopped tumbling. Above the void, a golden door of light appeared, a door formed from countless complex ancient runes. This door seemed to be connected to the 9 heavens and 10 earths, opening up the endless starry sky. In an instant, a 7-colored energy that made all the cultivators, including the Star River King, Prince Ing, and other top experts, shudder, rolled out from the golden door of light and poured down. It was like a rainbow piercing the sun. It was beautiful and fantastical. What? How is this possible? Immortal Qi. Immortal Qi, the real immortal Qi. Immortal Qi, only the immortal realm has immortal Qi. The real immortal Qi. He has connected the immortal realm? How is this possible? How is this possible? At this moment, all the spirits of all things that had already awakened paled in shock. They widened their eyes and opened their mouth. They stared blankly at the rainbow-colored energy that poured down from the 9 heavens. They could not be any more shocked. Chapter 1442. The gate of the 3 realms of immortals, demons, and gods had been closed. The real immortal Qi did not exist in any of the great 1,000 worlds. Occasionally, a little bit of it could be found, but it was left in the sealed ancient ruins. This was the real reason why no one could climb the Emperor's celestial ladder to become a celestial emperor after the War of the Three Realms. How could one become a celestial emperor in a great thousand world without real immortal chi? But now, Chun Hao had connected the immortal realm and received real immortal chi. Unbelievable! A great era is coming. Could it be that the gate of the immortal realm has been loosened? Otherwise, it would be impossible to receive immortal chi. Gu Xian frowned. It must be so. Such pure immortal chi is undoubtedly from the immortal realm. This Li Yuan does not seem to be as simple as we thought. Humph, he is indeed not simple. However, he can connect the immortal realm and receive immortal chi to revive Qin Yang, who was killed by my Nirvana Samsara finger. Dream on. Of course. Brother Gu is the reincarnation of a celestial venerable. How can Li Yuan be compared to you? Wei Wufa and Zhan Yuanzhao hurriedly flattered. Who would have thought that the celestial venerable, the reincarnation of a celestial emperor, would have such a face? But this was the truth. The immortal realm was not different from the great thousand world. There was a distinction between high and low. The celestial emperor in the great world of Xian Di was an existence that everyone looked up to. However, in the immortal realm they were very ordinary. In the face of a celestial venerable, who was a lofty existence in the immortal realm, there were many celestial emperors who were willing to follow them. Immortal Qi. This is immortal Qi, the real immortal Qi? This Li Yuan can connect the immortal realm. The Star River King's divine sense had already covered the whole space, paying attention to all the practitioners who might be the celestial venerable. At this moment, when he felt the seven-colored energy pouring down, he was even more shocked when he heard the discussion of Gu Xian and the others. If I can absorb, comprehend, and refine this immortal Qi, my cultivation will be able to reach a higher level. Then, does that mean that I can become a celestial emperor? Good boy, no matter what, I have to take him down. Gu Xian and the others could not be spared either. Immortal Emperor, humph, in the great world of Xian Di, the first person to be conferred the title of Immortal Emperor can only be me, Xiao Xinghe. The Celestial River King stared at the seven-colored immortal Qi with scorching eyes as he thought to himself. Condense. Chun Hao's tongue bloomed like a lotus flower as he spoke the word condense, and then his hands abruptly danced about like moving clouds and flowing water. His sparkling and translucent fingers instantly transformed into numerous afterimages, and no one was able to clearly see how swift his hand's speed was because no one present knew what divine ability or talisman Chun Hao had condensed. The only thing he could feel was the endless mysterious aura and the unimaginably complicated trajectories. It was like the hand of the heavens that was evolving the process of the birth of life. The mysterious and profound aura merged with the immortal Qi and filled the entire arena. Unite, trace to the origin, return to your position. 1. When numerous complicated and profound runes filled every inch of space in the arena, Chun Hao's clear and cold voice resounded once again. In an instant, all the runes that seemed to exist independently actually miraculously combined into a whole in an instant. Their auras were connected, and they depended on each other. At this moment, endless vitality and spiritual Qi of heaven and earth gushed out from between Chun Hao's eyebrows. Vitality was the purest life force of the tree of life. Spiritual Qi of heaven and earth was the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth from the spiritual spring sea that was many times purer than before. What a terrifying strength! This Li Yuan is really unfathomable. When he merged with Chun Tianhe earlier, we all thought that was his strongest strength. But now, he clearly didn't have time to merge with Chun Tianhe, and the strength he displayed has definitely more than doubled. Yes, he's too strong. It seems that you, Gu Xian, may not necessarily win. The divine power that Chun Hao displayed at this moment shocked even the top experts of the true celestial king realm, let alone ordinary cultivators. This was because it was definitely a peerless divine power that had surpassed the limits of one's cultivation level. Although they didn't recognize it, they could guess that it should be similar to Gu Xian's Nirvana Samsara finger, which originated from the immortal world. It's useless. Nirvana Samsara. Even if you use the Great Samsara technique, you still have to have a target to reincarnate with. Everything about him has already been annihilated by my Nirvana ultimacy, unless your understanding of the Nirvana ultimacy surpasses mine. But that's impossible. Not many people in the immortal world can surpass my Nirvana ultimacy, Gu Xian said coldly. Of course, Chen Hao couldn't hear him, but he still said it. Was it arrogance, or was it to encourage himself? Only he knew. Nirvana. But at this moment, Chen Hao spat out another word. Then, an aura that made Gu Xian's expression turn extremely ugly bloomed from Chen Hao's body. He was clearly in front of Gu Xian, but he seemed to be far away on the horizon. In an instant, he disappeared completely. Even the aura of the entire arena disappeared completely. The immortal qi that came from the immortal world was also completely cut off, integrated into the arena, and disappeared. There was only a deathly silence. Brother Hao is so powerful, the young nurse, Lu Hui, said excitedly. Regardless of whether it was the divine power that traced back to the origin to revive Qin Yang or the Nirvana light ultimacy, she had used them in front of Chen Hao before. However, at this moment, when Chen Hao used them, they were many times more powerful than hers. It was also at this moment that she realized that Gu Xian wasn't exaggerating. If it were her, it would be impossible for her to revive Qin Yang. How could this be? Gu Xian sensed that the arena had completely disappeared without a trace of aura. It was as if it was completely dead, and he was shocked. Others might not know what was going on, but he and some of the fully awakened spirits of all creation knew very well that Chen Hao had used the extremely powerful Nirvana ultimacy, and it had filled the entire arena. They couldn't sense his aura, and there was only dead silence. This meant that Chen Hao's understanding of the Nirvana ultimacy was not inferior to his. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could his understanding of the Nirvana ultimacy be stronger than mine? Gu Xian muttered to himself with an ugly expression. He had clearly lost his cool. Wei Wufa and Zhang Yuanzhao looked at Gu Xian's expression and felt faintly uneasy. What would it mean if Gu Xian lost? It would definitely not be as simple as kowtowing and calling him grandfather. More importantly, they thought that Gu Xian, who was the reincarnation of a heavenly lord and was countless times stronger than Li Yuan, might not be as good as Li Yuan. Even though the result was not out yet, the two of them were a little regretful that they had taken sides a little too early. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, after a full hour, the arena was empty. Suddenly, a soaring sword intent gushed out from the deathly silent arena. Clang! Clang 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 clang. When this sword intent spread out, the wind and clouds surged in an instant. The power of heaven and earth actually automatically condensed into streaks of sword light, letting out a clear and loud sword cry. Chapter 1443. Some golden celestials of the great overarching golden celestials, and even some primordial supremes of the primordial chaos supremes, showed signs of losing control of their sword. Once again, they formed the myriad swords of reverence. However, they couldn't compare to Chen Taishu's. But even so, it shocked all the cultivators present. Gu Xian's face darkened to a terrifying degree because the sword intent that soared into the sky was Qin Yang's. He's resurrected. He's resurrected. He was killed by the Nirvana Samsara finger. Unbelievable. The spirits of all living things were shocked. Ha ha ha, Brother Fatty is mighty. I told you, Brother Fatty won't lose. F*CK off. Can you not speak in hindsight? Who was the one who looked like the sky was falling? The disciples of the University of Dahua, were very excited. Chen Nan, Pan Long, Du Jing, Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and the other girls heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at each other. They had to admit that this was the first time they were most worried. The spirits of all living things were most likely the reincarnation of a celestial master. Even if they trusted Chen Hao, they couldn't be sure. Amidst the endless divine light, the rolling Taoist principles, and the crisscrossing sword qi, two figures appeared. One of them was full of energy and a shadow of a sword seemed to be hanging above his head. Who else could it be but Qin Yang? His aura seemed to be more powerful than before he died. Especially at this moment, his body contained a real divine qi, which made him, who was already extraordinary, look even more ethereal. The other figure was sitting cross-legged and looked quite weak. It was obvious that he had consumed too much energy and hadn't recovered yet. Naturally, it was Chen Hao. "We're family, so I won't thank you." Qin Yang smiled as he looked at Chen Hao and spoke softly. His gaze contained an imperceptible feeling of gratitude. He had never thought of coming back from the dead, but it really happened to him. And all of this was given to him by Chen Hao. How could he not be grateful to be given a second life? But he wasn't the kind of person who would show his gratitude on the surface. Chen Hao glared at Qin Yang and said, "What's the point of thanking me? Just remember that your life is mine." Qin Yang was slightly taken aback, and then he smiled. "Junior Marshal sister already has you in her heart. Why do you have to deliberately make things difficult for her? It was only right and proper for a man to give in to a woman. However, my life is indeed yours, but if you want to bully junior sister, I will still fight you to the death," Qin Yang said with a smile, but his words were as sharp as a sword, directly pointing to the essence. "You can do it? Ahem, it doesn't matter if I can or not. Attitude is the most important thing." Qin Yang, senior brother. The Sword King Chen Taishu opened the seal and directly stepped onto the arena. He had an excited and joyful expression as he grabbed Qin Yang's hand and carefully sized him up. After that, Miao Xian, whose tears were still wet, also flew into the arena. "Thank you," Miao Xian said softly when Chen Hao turned around and walked towards the top 10. Chen Hao's figure paused imperceptibly for a moment before he quickly returned to the top 10 and looked at Gu Xian. At this moment, be it the cultivators present or the live broadcast in the celestial realm, all of them were focused on Chen Hao and Gu Xian. "What, do you need me to remind you?" Chen Hao stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Although he had consumed a lot of energy to revive Qin Yang, and his face was still a little pale, his handsome face and his eyes, which were as deep as the stars in the night sky, revealed a disdainful spirit. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised as if he was smiling, but at this moment, it gave people a bone-chilling feeling. All the discussions disappeared and the scene became silent. Everyone's eyes fell on Gu Xian's face. Gu Xian's face became more and more unsightly, and his eyes looking at Chen Hao became more and more ruthless. The aura on his body became more and more violent, and the terrifying pressure made everyone in the top 10 activate their protective aura. At the same time, Gu Xian's eyebrows twitched violently, and a faint golden light emerged. There was no doubt that it was the fluctuation from the Godhead. It was just that he suppressed it and did not really release it, but the pressure was getting more and more terrifying. In an instant, the terrifying pressure pressed down on the entire space, causing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to surge and scatter in all directions. It swept out, shocking countless cultivators. What they had to endure was merely the aftermath. How strong was the pressure that Chen Hao, who bore the brunt of it, had to endure? Everyone knew that Gu Xian wanted to intimidate Li Yuan with his pressure. But Chen Hao, who had a calm expression and a piercingly cold gaze, didn't seem to be affected in the slightest, and he allowed the pressure to descend upon him. The only change was that the gaze he looked at Gu Xian with had become as if he was looking at a clown, and it was filled with ridicule. You are indeed not bad to be able to withstand 10% of my pressure. However, are you sure you dare to make me kneel? Gu Xian was also surprised, but he did not show it on his face. Instead, he said threateningly, "Are you willing to bet or not?" Chen Hao said disdainfully, "Haha, I'm just afraid that you can't bear it and die. I, Gu Xian, am the reincarnation of the Celestial Lord. I am a supreme existence even in the celestial realm. Are you sure you want me to kneel?" Gu Xian was insufferably arrogant, and his eyebrows twitched even more violently. Asking him, a celestial lord, to kneel in front of Chen Hao, no matter what, he could not put down his face. However, the bet was first, and it was a fact that he had lost. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he could only ask Chen Hao to give up. "Li Yuan, don't be ungrateful and bring trouble to yourself. Who do you think you are to ask Celestial Lord Gu Xian to kneel? If you really do that, I'm sure that once Celestial Lord Gu Xian's strength recovers, you will definitely die without a burial place. No one in this world can save you. The most important thing is that if Celestial Lord Gu Xian releases his Godhead's aura, how can you withstand a bow from Celestial Lord Gu Xian? Death is unavoidable." When Wei Wufa and Zhan Yuanzhao heard Gu Xian's words, their eyes lit up. Previously, they had only guessed that Gu Xian might be the reincarnation of a celestial lord, or someone close to a celestial lord. However, at this moment, Gu Xian had personally confirmed his identity as a celestial lord. The significance of this was very different. The two of them instantly became Gu Xian's dogs and roared without hesitation. Unfortunately, Chen Hao did not care about Gu Xian's words at all. His eyelids did not even twitch. "You have 2 dogs already? What a great celestial lord! Unfortunately, in front of me you're nothing. I'll say it again. If you agree to the bet, you must accept your loss. Kneel down and call me grandfather 3 times. Impudent! How dare you? You're courting death." Wei Wufa, Zhan Yuanzhao, and Gu Xian were instantly enraged. "Humph." At this moment, Sword King Chen Taishu suddenly snorted coldly and said, "You dare to not admit to a bet made in front of the world? The old man doesn't care if you're a celestial lord or not. Now, in the eyes of the old man, you're just an ant. Carry out the bet or die." "Ha ha. Good good. It seems like the celestial realm gate has been closed for too long. I, Gu Xian, a celestial lord, am actually threatened by a mere true celestial king. Even if I'm just Daluo Jinxian, do you think you have the ability to kill me? What a joke." Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. Knowing that it was unavoidable, Gu Xian no longer hesitated and released his Godhead's aura without restraint. Chapter 1444. Holy, bright golden light gushed out and swept across the land. Plop, 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 plop. In an instant, the cultivators of the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, who sensed the pressure of the ancient mystic godhead, fell to their knees. Those that didn't kneel were all shocked as well. All of them utilized their strongest energy to resist this terrifying pressure that made others submit, and their gazes stared with astonishment at the insufferably arrogant Gu Xian who possessed might that ruled the world. The pressure of the Godhead. It was many times stronger than Shi Chao's Godhead. It could be said that Shi Chao's Godhead could not be compared to Gu Xian's. Even the powerful Tao-severing perfected immortals, perfected immortal kings, and galaxy kings were shocked. They were sure that if Gu Xian was not restricted by his realm and could not use the full power of the Godhead, they would not be able to resist the pressure that was completely beyond their realm. At this moment, Gu Xian was like a child holding a peerless sword. He could not even use 1/10,000th of its power. This is the Godhead of a heavenly venerable? Chen Hao was also shocked. Although he was shocked, he was not intimidated by the pressure of the ancient mystic Godhead. "You forced me to do this. I did not want to use the Godhead because I was still hoping for a new breakthrough. But since you are so reckless, I have to sacrifice a little. How dare you ask me to kneel? Gu Xian rose into the air and looked down at Chen Hao. He said arrogantly, "To tell you the truth, no one can stop me if I want to leave, not even a king. I have fully awakened. No one can stop my growth. You are just a heavenly venerable. So what if you are a heavenly venerable? Since you have lost to me, you have to honor it even if you are a king. Don't dare? Why not? There is no such word in my dictionary. Also, I hate threats the most. Ha ha ha. Gu Xian was so angry that he laughed. Good. I can afford to lose. But I hope you don't regret it. I want to see how you can bear the worship of a heavenly venerable. Don't forget to call me Grandpa 3 times. Chen Hao said disdainfully. Boom. Gu Xian was so angry that his hair stood on end. In an instant, it was as if a 10,000-kilogram boulder had fallen to the ground with a loud bang. His gaze was cold and terrifying to the extreme as he stared at Chen Hao and said, "Keep it well." Bang. Bang. Shortly after, Gu Xian knelt on one knee in front of everyone's eyes. His forehead heavily hit the ground, allowing the Empyrean ranked godhead between his brows to connect with the ground. At this moment, endless golden holy light rose from his body, condensing into a golden wave that erupted without any warning. Not good! Shameless! At this moment, countless exclamations rang out. Before anyone could react, the terrifying golden waves drowned Chen Hao, who was in front of Gu Xian. At the same time, Gu Xian's figure also disappeared. However, his entire person seemed to have merged with the endless golden waves. I've reminded you before that no one can withstand the kowtow of this Empyrean. Die. Gu Xian's cold voice came from the golden wave. Bastard, what did you do to Li Yuan? Zap. Sword King Chen Taishu was the first to lose his temper. He took a step forward, arriving in front of the endless golden light. At the same time, he sealed the entire space. Those who go back on their words deserve to die. King Ying also took a step forward. What bullshit Empyrean! I think you're just a shameless villain. King Luoying followed closely behind King Ying. Ha ha ha, new generation Sword King, King Ying, King Luoying, very good, who else wants to come? Come at me. Even if I, Gu Xian, am just Daluo Jinxian, I am still the reincarnation of an Empyrean. What can a bunch of ants like you do to me? I've said it before, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Not to mention you, even the Star River King can't. In the future, I will definitely kill all 3 of you ants who don't know what's good for you. Let him out. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Chen Taishu was enraged. Sharp sword Qi soared to the sky, threatening to erupt at any time. Impolite? How can you be impolite? Kill me if you have the guts, ah? After merging with my Empyrean rank godhead, a tiny ant like you dares to threaten me? Your sword attack will only hasten Li Yuan's death. I have to admit, he is indeed a rare genius for not collapsing in my godhead. Too bad he ran into me, he's dead for sure. How can an Empyrean's prestige be violated? Ha ha! At this moment, Gu Xian was like a porcupine in Chen Taishu's and the others' eyes. They couldn't do anything to him, nor could they check Chen Hao's situation inside the godhead space. This made them extremely anxious. Everyone close to Chen Hao was sweating profusely for him. No one had expected Gu Xian to be so despicable, nor did they expect him to fully activate his godhead. After all, fully activating his godhead was equivalent to erasing the possibility of breaking through to the next level. But at this moment, even the 3 conferred Emperor Realm experts were helpless, not to mention Chen Nan and the others. Is that so? Suddenly, Chen Hao's cold voice penetrated the golden waves and Gu Xian's complacent laughter, entering everyone's ears. You still have the ability to speak? Gu Xian exclaimed. You're surprised? How about this? Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz, all of a sudden, the golden waves rolled violently. At the same time, Gu Xian screamed in fright, one after another. Under everyone's horrified gazes, the golden waves that were struggling became smaller and smaller, and the aura that permeated the air became weaker. Finally, it turned into a walnut-sized godhead, which was held firmly in the hand of a vague shadow. That hand was filled with ancient and mysterious runes, as if it was the head of the heavens that could control all living things. The owner of that hand was none other than De Hua Liyuan. Let me go. Impossible. How could you escape from my godhead space? How could you confine my godhead? Gu Xian's frightened voice came from the godhead. In front of me, anything is possible, Chen Hao said proudly. Swish. Right at this moment, the space suddenly darkened. To everyone's surprise, the celestial river king, who had been silent all this time, suddenly moved and appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao frowned slightly, looking at the celestial river king. That was then, and this was now. Chen Hao, who had always been cautious, did not expect that Sword King, Ing King, and especially Luo Ing King, these three masters would stand behind him. Although they still could not compete with the Celestial River King, at least they were not without the power to fight back. Moreover, with Gu Xian's godhead in his hands, Chen Hao felt a little more confident. Of course, it was only enough to escape with his life. Chapter 1445. Li Yuan, how about we drop this matter? After all, Gu Xian is the reincarnation of a celestial venerable. A celestial venerable, even in the immortal world, is a supreme existence. Of course, I know that you may not be simple, or even stronger. Can be said that you are the hope of the great world of Xiandi, and the hope to open the door to the immortal world. The death of any one of you is a huge loss for the great world of Xiandi. The faces of King Ing, Chen Taishu, and King Luoying suddenly sank. Obviously, they were very unhappy with the words of the Star River King. But they could not fall out with him, so naturally, they had no reason to refute. Haha, but at this time, Chen Hao smiled and stared at the Celestial River King. Celestial River King, you are my idol and my life's master, so I respect you. What you said is very reasonable, but it is unfair to me, don't you think? Walla, Chen Hao's calm words directly ignited the great world of Xiandi. How dare you? The newborn calf is not afraid of the tiger. How dare you say that the Star River King is unfair, and in front of all the cultivators? Unfair? The Star River King frowned slightly. He looked straight at Chen Hao, and a trace of imperceptible anger flashed in his eyes. As the strongest person in the great world of Xiandi, anyone would be flattered and excited to talk to a junior from the Daluo Golden Wonderland, but Chen Hao not only looked calm, but also said that he was unfair in front of everyone. Li Yuan. Sword King, Chen Taishu said. He knew the terror of the Star River King, and it was absolutely not a good time to fall out with the Star River King. But as soon as Chen Taishu opened his mouth, Chen Hao waved his hand at him and said, When I was bound by the Godhead space, and Gu Xian was about to win, if you stood up to stop him, even if you could not stop him, I would have no objection to what you said to me at this moment, but you did not. His life is a life, but mine isn't? Now, when I was about to kill him, you asked me to stop. Just now, when he was about to kill me, you didn't stop him. The more Chen Hao spoke, the more agitated he became, while the Celestial River King's face turned increasingly ugly. No. I am half your disciple, but you don't. No. Seeing that Celestial River King was on the verge of losing his temper, Chen Hao's expression suddenly changed. Looking straight at Celestial River King, his dark eyes started to glow with tears, as if he could not control his emotions, mixed with excitement and grievances. This, the originally angry Celestial River King, on hearing Chen Hao's words and seeing Chen Hao's agitated and aggrieved look, immediately turned speechless. The anger he felt towards Chen Hao also disappeared in an instant. Forget it, Master didn't stop you before, not because I didn't want to, but because Taishu and the others had already stood up. Now, Taishu and the others naturally can't stop you, so Master can only come out. Since you want to do so, then so be it. After all, as you said, everything you did was within the rules. Celestial River King shook his head. He seemed quite helpless. However, what he said made Chen Hao and everyone else unable to find fault with his word. However, when he called himself Master, Chen Hao, King Ying, and King Luoying were not happy. Of course, they would not say anything. Chen Hao had cleverly resolved the possibility of falling out with them. Wasn't this what they wanted? However, Chen Hao only chuckled in his heart. Master? Really a master who shines brightly when given a little sunshine. Celestial River King, save me. If you can save me, I will help you become the first Emperor Realm Master in the great world of Xiandi. The immortal world's gate has opened. With my heavenly venerable Godhead, I can connect to the immortal world and guide the immortal Qi. I will teach you the immortal world's supreme art. In the future, when you ascend to the immortal world, you will become a master that everyone looks up to. Just as the Celestial River King was about to leave, Gu Xian's voice came from the heavenly venerable Godhead in Chen Hao's hand. The Celestial River King was slightly stunned. He turned around to look at the heavenly venerable Godhead in Chen Hao's hand and said, "Sorry. I never forcefully intervene in my disciples' matters." With that said, the Celestial River King returned to the main stage. Although Gu Xian's words were very tempting to him, he was still the strongest person in the great world of Xiandi. How could he go back on his words in front of everyone? Moreover, Gu Xian's words clearly told him that Gu Xian could not escape from Li Yuan's palm. What did this mean? One had to know that Gu Xian had boasted shamelessly that no one could make him stay. But Li Yuan had done it. At the same cultivation level as Li Yuan, Gu Xian had lost the bet, and this time, he had lost completely. Who was stronger and who was weaker was clear at a glance. You can shut your mouth forever. The heavenly venerable Godhead disappeared into Chen Hao's forehead following Chen Hao's words. Qi. In the next second, Chen Hao returned to his seat and sat down cross-legged. His expression was calm as if nothing had happened. However, the way everyone looked at him changed imperceptibly. This was especially true for those who had fully awakened. Although they were shocked that Chen Hao could kill Shi Chao, obtain his godhead, and use it, Shi Chao was just an ordinary reincarnated immortal emperor. Shock was shock, but it did not reach the point of fear. But now a Chen Hao could even seal an heavenly venerable godhead. Moreover, he was able to counterattack after being trapped in Shi Chao's godhead space. What kind of amazing ability was this? Wei Wufa and Zhang Yuanzhao, who had been dogs for a short time, were even more frightened at this moment. Especially when Chen Hao casually glanced at them, they were so scared that their legs trembled. What kind of existence was this? Neither of them dared to imagine. Above the heavenly venerable realm, was it something they could touch? Miao Xian glanced sideways at Chen Hao from time to time, but she did not dare to look at him openly, acting like a little girl. At this point, although the final result of the competition was not out, her request for Chen Hao was meaningless. Let the competition continue. The Star River King interrupted the buzzing crowd and signaled to the host. Then, the host announced that the competition would continue. Because Gu Xian had merged with his godhead, and was suppressed by Chen Hao, Qin Yang, who had come back from the dead, was automatically added to the top 10 list. However, the host asked several questions, but no one went up the stage to challenge. The top 10 of the Daluo Golden Wonderland was finally determined. According to the competition procedure, the top 10 ranking competition would be held after the top 10 of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm was determined. Therefore, although everyone was looking forward to the top 10 ranking competition, they could only endure for the time being. the thrilling competition of the Daluo Golden Wonderland came to an end. The competition of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm had officially begun. However, Chun Hao did not watch the competition of Chun Nan and the others. Instead, he took advantage of this gap to inform the crowd and directly disappeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1446. Even the Star River King, who had been paying close attention to Chun Hao, failed to notice Chun Hao's presence. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Everyone was shocked by this. However, thinking about how Chun Hao could connect to the immortal world, resurrect Qin Yang, and even suppress Gu Xian, who had obtained the heavenly venerable godhead, everyone felt that it was nothing. This must be the reincarnation of an heavenly venerable, or even stronger existence. How could they imagine the immortal world's ultimate techniques he had mastered? It seems that to get the most benefits from this kid, it's best to use the soft approach. My choice is right. The Star River King was very satisfied with his decision not to interfere with Gu Xian. From the beginning of the competition until now, in a short period of time, Chun Hao could be said to have shone brilliantly, attracting the attention of everyone from beginning to end. In the team competition, he won the title of number 1 in comprehension, killing the spirit of all creation Shi Chao. In the individual competition, he fought Xiao Manyun and Xiao Manxia, merged with Chen Qi and Chen Tianhe, resurrected Qin Yang, and Gu Xian, who was the reincarnation of Venerable Exterminate the Heavenly Venerable. Each one of them was thrilling, giving Chun Hao a lot of benefits. Now, he needed time to digest them properly before they could truly become part of his strength. Even if it was just a little bit of time, he had to make full use of it. Although Chun Hao had absolute confidence in the upcoming top 10 ranking competition, for some reason, Gu Xian's appearance and the awakening of countless spirits of all creation made him feel uneasy. Chun Hao did not think that this feeling was just him being paranoid. Of course, the most important thing was that he had appeared in the Star River King's sight, and he had already become the target. Increasing his strength and cultivation realm was pressing on him. This sense of urgency made Chun Hao race against time. Zap! In the vast space, a streak of light streaked across and a figure appeared. Heavenly Venerable Godhead, shuttling through space, amazing! This figure was Chun Hao, who had disappeared from the Deerchaser Peak. At this moment, he was staring at the endless space with excitement as he muttered to himself. This speed is comparable to the Star River Tunnel in the chaotic space. As long as I have the coordinates, where can I not go? Even if I don't know the coordinates, the time needed to find Earth would be reduced by a lot. This is the strength of a heavenly venerable in the immortal world. So strong. Master, the preparations are complete. You can begin. At this moment, Old God's voice sounded. So fast? How far is this place from the great world of Xiendi? Don't delay the match with me. Don't worry, Master. It's not far. However, this isn't the chaotic space. It's outside the 9 heavens. Even if a true celestial king were to fly, it would still take 100 years to travel from the great world of Xiendi through the 9 heavens imperial court to here. On the other hand, when we use this Empyrean Godhead, it only takes an instant. Oh, what about the space-time laws? Are you sure it's 10,000 times? In the heavenly venerable Godhead space, one can easily achieve 10,000 times the space-time law. This Gu Xian should be one of the weaker ones among the ranks of Empyreans. Even if I do my best, I can only raise it to 13,000 times. Alright, Master, don't waste any more time. Alright. 13,000 times. Even if it's only a day in the real world, it's still more than 30 years. It should be enough. Chi. Chun Hao's figure turned into a streak of light, and a golden heavenly venerable godhead appeared in his original position. Clearly, Chun Hao had merged with the golden heavenly venerable godhead. All this while, Chun Hao had done everything he could on his own. He had always adhered to one principle, and that was to not rely on external forces to cultivate. But now, Chun Hao didn't persist any longer. The profundities that had started to awaken in his mind went from blurry to clear. Even though he hadn't had the time to test it out, he noticed that his comprehension of the laws of the Heaven Tao, mental state, will, and many other aspects had already surpassed his own realm by too much. It was absolutely impossible for his foundation to be unstable. Moreover, his Tao was not affected by the awakening of his memories. This was enough for him. Thus, from now on, he needed to raise his cultivation realm and strength with the help of everything. Stepping into the Godhead space, Chun Hao sat down cross-legged and exhaled deeply. He looked at Gu Xian, who was bound by complicated runes in his Godhead space. Let me go, let me go. Li Yuan, you can suppress my Godhead. This is not your power, I refuse to accept this. Gu Xian clamored. A dignified reincarnated heavenly venerable was actually suppressed in his own Godhead space. This was simply a big joke. He refused to accept this. No matter what, he would not accept this. So what? If you have the guts, fight me to the death. Do you think I'm stupid? Moreover, you alone are not worth my time. Your Godhead's pressure can't do anything to me, and neither can you fight me. Just wait, you'll soon see that I'll be able to rely on my own strength to control and refine your Godhead. Refine? Impossible. In the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and 3 realms, no one can refine a Godhead. It belongs to the cultivator's own great Tao. Is that so? Then watch carefully. This is Shi Chao's Godhead. I'll let you see it first. Chi. With a flash of golden light, Shi Chao's Godhead appeared in front of Chun Hao. In the next instant, Chun Hao's heavenly eye emerged from his spiritual altar. His powerful mental force turned into tangible tendrils that connected to Shi Chao's Godhead. Soon, Chun Hao was immersed in a deep level of comprehension. The way to refine a Godhead had been awakened in Chun Hao's mind when he had absorbed Gu Xian's Godhead. However, it was indeed not something that anyone could perform. However, Chun Hao was one of the people who could perform it. Firstly, it required the body of a Khanate martial emperor. He had always thought that he only had a mortal body. At most, he had the strongest immortal bloodline that contained genetic evolution. But now, Chun Hao knew that he had the body of a Khanate martial emperor and could integrate many great Daos into his body. Secondly, it required a strong comprehension ability. The prerequisite for refining a Godhead was that one had to comprehend the great Tao contained in the Godhead. Otherwise, it would be impossible to refine it. Lastly, one had to be strong enough. These 4 words contained too much information. The most direct was the state of mind, will, soul power, and so on. As for the rest, even Chun Hao himself was not sure. Because he had only awakened a little of the unique skill inheritance, he had not awakened any memories. The only thing he was sure of was that he was strong enough. Chi. After half a year under the abnormal spacetime laws, Chun Hao, whose aura was constantly changing, suddenly opened his eyes. Chi then, Shi Chao's Godhead shook violently. Rays of golden energy escaped from the Godhead and merged into Chun Hao's glabella under Gu Xian's fearful gaze. As time passed, Shi Chao's Godhead became smaller and smaller. However, the amount of golden energy that Chun Hao's glabella absorbed increased and condensed into the lines of the Godhead. Refining a Godhead, how is this possible? No, I don't want to die. Chapter 1447. I don't want to die. Li Yuan, no, grandfather, please don't refine me. I am the reincarnation of Heavenly Lord Tai Xian. My father is Heavenly Lord Zhu Xian. I am willing to submit to you and be at your beck and call. As long as you don't refine me, I can give you everything I have, including my strongest Heavenly Lord technique, and the immortal world's secret treasures. When Shi Chao's godhead completely disappeared, becoming the godhead in Chen Hao's forehead, Gu Xian, the heavenly venerable Gu Xian, finally lost his courage. He threw away his pride and dignity as an heavenly venerable and begged for mercy like a stray dog. It had to be said that the stronger a person was, the more they feared death. At this moment, Gu Xian was even worse than an ordinary cultivator. However, if Wei Wufa and the rest were here, they would definitely be shocked by Gu Xian's two titles, Heavenly Lord Tai Xian and Heavenly Lord Jiu Xian. Especially Heavenly Lord Jiu Xian, who was ranked 4th in the immortal world. His battle strength was terrifying, and his status in the immortal world was comparable to King Ying's in the great world of Xiandi. Unfortunately, these were useless against Chen Hao. Fuck off, you think you're worthy of being my grandson? Why do I need you to give me everything you have? I only need to refine your godhead, and I'll have everything. Chen Hao kicked Gu Xian's face. I'll give you a little more time to live. When I finish fusing my 8 lives, it'll be time to refine you. No, please let me go. Gu Xian screamed in fear. Unfortunately, no matter how much Gu Xian screamed, Chen Hao ignored him and immersed himself in cultivation. This time, he wanted to truly fuse with the other 7 lives. This would take a long time. This was because what Chen Hao wanted was a selective true fusion, not a complete fusion. He didn't want dregs. Evil thoughts, he didn't want them. To Chen Hao, this kind of fusion was like a Dao severing. Because, no matter which life it was a part of his origin. This was an unchangeable fact. The Daluo Golden Wonderland's cutting path. What kind of concept was that? In fact, had it not been for the accident with Chen Tianhe, Chen Hao might have continued to cultivate the 9 lives mystic technique. After all, he had already started and had 7 lives. If he had 1 more life, he would have completed all 9 lives. Whether it was 9 by 9 to 1, breaking the 9 limits, or giving birth to a heaven-defying 10th life, he would have been able to improve much more after fusion. Especially when he had completed the fusion in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he would have been able to cut the path immediately. It could be said that he had killed 2 birds with 1 stone. 20 years should be enough for me to fuse with the spacetime laws. After that, I'll go to Shi Chao's godhead space to refine Gu Xian's godhead. Although the spacetime laws are a few times weaker than before, they're still 2,000 times stronger. Chen Hao focused his mind and began the true fusion. Dear Chasing Peak. When Chen Hao began to truly integrate the 7 lives, the first round of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm competition had just begun. Chen Nan. Murong Qianhua stared at Chen Nan, who was standing with his hands behind his back. His eyes shone with a strong desire to fight. Chen Nan was slightly stunned. He glanced sideways at Murong Qianhua, whose aura was extremely powerful and whose desire to fight was soaring wildly. Do we have a grudge? Number 6, oh, the Dahua Academy, Murong Qianhua. We'll be in the same academy soon. You're looking at me with such hatred. You're jealous of my brother, aren't you? Chen Nan's indifferent voice, calm expression, and words were extremely harsh in Murong Qianhua's ears. His words were undoubtedly on the mark, and they were also blatant contempt. Murong Qianhua, who had always been good at disguising himself, didn't seem to hide his expression at this moment. It was ferocious and distorted. It was a blatant display of one's emotions. Jealous? No matter how strong he is, he's just a Daluo Golden Wonderland. What's there for me to be jealous of? Your expression has already betrayed you. It seems that you have a deep grudge with my brother. However, the fact that you're still alive shows that you're just an ant in my brother's eyes. He can't be bothered to waste his time on you. In that case, let me help my brother deal with you. Your strength is not bad for me. You! Murong Qianhua's already distorted mentality was directly provoked by Chen Nan's words. With a boom, he was completely ignited. I, Murong Qianhua, am not inferior to anyone. You, Li Yuan, will be ruthlessly trampled under my feet. You're just stepping stones on my path to becoming an immortal emperor, all of you. Starlight illuminates the world. Chi chi chi. The bright and violent starlight suddenly bloomed from Murong Qianhua's body and directly attacked Chen Nan. After frowning slightly, Chen Nan released an incomparably fierce aura. At the same time, he took a step forward instead of retreating. Number 6 challenges Number 1 Chen Nan. Murong Qianhua from the Dahua Academy and Chen Nan from the Baihui Academy. Didn't they say that the monstrous disciples of the Baihui Academy, who are related to Li Yuan, may join the Dahua Academy? Why would Murong Qianhua challenge Chen Nan? I heard that Chen Nan is Li Yuan's younger brother. This Murong Qianhua is really bold. It's fine if he loses, but if he eliminates Chen Nan, how could Li Yuan let him off easily? Haha, you don't know as well as I do. Let me tell you, Chen Si from the Dahua Academy, who has now become Prince Ying's disciple. Do you know him? Nonsense, of course I know him. Chen Si is Li Yuan's Taoist companion, and Murong Qianhua is Chen Si's fanatical admirer. He and Li Yuan are enemies. Of course, Li Yuan did not reveal such terrifying talent and strength before. Now, Murong Qianhua still dares to provoke Li Yuan's younger brother. It's really unbelievable. I have to admit that I admire his courage. I'm afraid he's crazy? Or he's possessed by the devil. Maybe. But then again, without Li Yuan, Murong Qianhua would definitely be the most talented person in the two realms in the Dahua Academy. You may not know, but Murong Qianhua's Yin spirit is very strong. The most promising team in the Hongming realm in the Dahua Academy was formed by him, the Starlight Team. Ah? He's the captain of the Starlight Team? Inside and outside the arena, countless cultivators were discussing. Many teachers and disciples of the Dahua Academy, who had rushed to watch Murong Qianhua's competition, were quite speechless at this time, including Qing Wanxiang. How is it? Rulin looked at Dean Qing Wanxiang and said, Now you believe me, this. Didn't he look fine before? How did he completely lose control? In the space of the immortal realm, he was almost invincible among his peers. He led the Starlight Team to make a name for himself. But in reality, after he was born, the limelight was stolen by Li Yuan, a cultivator who was one realm lower than him. The woman who put down all her dignity and pursued him has never looked at him directly. But she is one of Li Yuan's many beautiful Taoist companions, and even the one who is not outstanding at all. Chapter 1448. Li Yuan's performance has stimulated his nerves time and time again, exceeding his imagination and becoming an existence that he can't even look up to in his heart. He was unwilling, very unwilling. This unwillingness made him crazy and made him want to prove himself. Now that he's met Chen Nan, Li Yuan's brother has undoubtedly become his outlet to vent. Rulin said slowly. Since he can't find balance in Li Yuan, it's indeed a good choice to vent on Li Yuan's brother. If he really does vent, he should be able to wake up from his twisted and crazy state. Unfortunately, what a perverted brother. Although he's not that perverted, he's still very perverted. Ruoxian continued Rulin's words. What a pity. I'd better go watch Qin Si's match, Qing Wanxiang said helplessly. He couldn't bear to watch any longer. Murong Qianhua was a direct descendant of Dahua. His future was limitless, but now, under Murong Qianhua's crazy attacks, Chen Nan seemed to be taking a stroll in the park. He destroyed his attacks very casually and naturally. Anyone could see that if Chen Nan wanted to kill Murong Qianhua, there was no suspense at all. Even the token protection couldn't save him in time. But Chen Nan didn't do that. It wasn't that Chen Nan was soft-hearted, but that Rulin had specifically told him before the start of the match. Chen Nan also asked about the conflict between Murong Qianhua and his brother. Although this guy was as annoying as a fly, since Rulin had spoken, and his brother didn't kill him, Chen Nan reluctantly agreed. However, he could avoid the death penalty, but he couldn't escape punishment. At this moment, Chen Nan was teasing and ravaging Murong Qianhua. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and the others were satisfied. They were one realm lower, but they had suffered a lot from Murong Qianhua. They couldn't wait for Chen Nan to ravage this guy to death. When Murong Qianhua was no longer human, his expression was still crazy. His attacks were more and more desperate, and most of them were attacks that destroyed everything. You're not even worthy of carrying my brother's shoes. How can you compare with him? My brother can kill you when he's at the Daluo realm. If Teacher Rulin hadn't pleaded for you, you would be dead by now. Don't force me. Chen Nan was truly angry. Even though Chen Nan was stronger than Murong Qianhua, he could not bear such a desperate fighting style. Moreover, Chen Nan found that the crazy Murong Qianhua seemed to be getting braver as he fought. What made Chen Nan even more uneasy was that Murong Qianhua seemed to be giving birth to a force from the inside out. It was the force from the Yin spirit. Although Chen Nan had not yet comprehended the mystery of the Yin spirit, she already had some understanding of the Yin spirit. At this moment, Murong Qianhua, who had almost entered the state of madness, had undoubtedly stepped into the subtle state of awakening the Yin spirit. Once it was awakened, it would undoubtedly be terrifying. At this time, countless experts who were paying attention to this place also noticed some clues. This Murong Qianhua is obviously possessed by the devil, but he actually stepped into madness. The explosion of the small universe even awakened his Yin spirit. Is this a blessing in disguise? How rare. This is more interesting. What's the point of a one-sided battle? The people who were discussing suddenly burst into exclamations. When Murong Qianhua still had no intention of stopping after Chen Nan finished his words, he suddenly disappeared into thin air. Immediately, a sharp and extremely mysterious sword light, like a stroke of God, pierced through the back of Murong Qianhua's head and between his eyebrows before he could react. To be exact, before the onlookers could see clearly what was going on, a cold sword had pierced through the back of Murong Qianhua's head. It was extremely strange. It was unbelievably fast. Immediately, when the protective light of the token rose, Murong Qianhua's head exploded like a watermelon. It was torn apart and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Dead. Murong Qianhua was dead. Teacher Rulin, I'm sorry, Chen Nan said lightly. He knew that Rulin and the others were watching his match and could naturally hear his words. Chen Nan, who had died once, would not test how strong his combat strength was at this time. Being too arrogant and overconfident was giving others a chance. If it was not handled well, he would be doomed eternally. This was something he would never allow. He had promised Rulin that he would try his best not to kill Murong Qianhua. When he was threatened, there was no reason to let him awaken his Yin spirit and threaten him. So straightforward. What a powerful sword. This Chen Nan has the strength to make it to the top 10. Li Yuan is so abnormal, and his brother is also abnormal. Is he also the reincarnation of the spirit of all things? Chen Nan's unexpected sword shocked countless people. Good. Good kill, ha ha. The fly is finally dead. Damn, but this fly is really unusual. Fortunately, it's Brother Nan. He is indeed the brother of the boss, ha ha ha. Ha. Ao Qian and Ling Feng were stunned at first, and then they laughed unscrupulously. Maybe this is his destiny, it's a pity. The teachers from the school of Dahua were quite helpless. But no one, including Rulin and Ruoxian, blamed Chen Nan. After all, Chen Nan's strength was limited. Facing the increasingly crazy Murong Qianhua, he could no longer hold back. Otherwise, he might be the one to lose. In the immortal realm, Qin Wuliang, Han Mei, and Shui Mei had been laughing from ear to ear. They had known that their son was powerful, but they did not expect him to be so powerful. Chen Hao had completely exceeded their imagination. And now, Chen Nan, who had become the target of the immortal realm, showed amazing strength, which made Qin Wuliang excited. In another area, Si Xian, who had become a disciple of the Jade Girl Palace, was also representing the Dahua school. Although her time under King Ying's special training was very limited, her aura at this moment was amazing compared to when she was in the Dahua school. There was no doubt that King Ying had paid a high price for her. Although Si Xian was not a seated player, she just stood there and no one challenged her. This was not because of her identity as a disciple of the Jade Girl Palace, but because of her aura. She definitely had the strength of a seated player, which made others flinch and dare not provoke her. After the first round, Si Xian, Chen Nan, Pan Long, Du Jing, Lan Feng, Chen Ling, Li Yang, and Long Yi all advanced to the top 100,000. And Chen Nan was still a seated player. Unfortunately, after the second round, only Si Xian, Chen Nan, Pan Long, and Du Jing advanced to the top 1,000. In the third round, Pan Long and Du Jing also stopped, and Si Xian and Chen Nan successfully entered the top 100. In the end, Chen Nan, who became braver and braver, stood in the top 10, and in the challenge, he stood until the end and became one of the top 10. Although Si Xian had unearthed amazing potential under King Ying's special training, because of the short time, she did not enter the top 10. However, such a record was already amazing. Chapter 1451. After the top 10 of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's individual ranking competition was decided, the competition came to an end for the time being. All the contestants rested for 3 days before the top 10 ranking competition between the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm began. This was also the most anticipated battle for all the cultivators. These 3 days of rest were undoubtedly crucial for the top 10 contestants of the two realms. Dean Cheng. When the host announced the end of the competition, to everyone's surprise, the Star River King appeared directly in front of everyone from the Daoist Academy. Senior Star River King, where did Li Yuan go? He should have told you, right? This Senior Star River King, Li Yuan only told me that he wouldn't delay the top 10 ranking competition, but he didn't say where exactly he went. Oh? I wanted to use these 3 days to give him the strongest special training. No matter what, he is still my disciple. But since that's the case, forget it. If he returns, inform me immediately. Yes, Senior Star River King. Qing Wanxiang said respectfully. He only knew that Li Yuan had a little relationship with the Star River King because of Chen Tianhe. In his opinion, Chen Tianhe no longer existed, and Li Yuan only belonged to the Daoist Academy. How could he be the Star River King's disciple? But he naturally couldn't say such words. Moreover, Qing Wanxiang knew that the Star River King's Li Yuan definitely had an ulterior motive because she, that is, the Fallen Flower King, King Ying, and Sword King Chen Taishu, deliberately showed an attitude. Little elephant, you really don't know? Master, it's true. You and the Star River King couldn't lock on to his aura. This is really unbelievable. Qing Wanxiang said respectfully. The disciples and teachers of the Daoist Academy, especially Xuefian, looked at this scene with surprise and amusement. The Fallen Flower King called Qing Wanxiang Little Elephant, and Qing Wanxiang called the Fallen Flower King Master. Then, wasn't Qing Wanxiang Xuefian's senior brother? Although this kid is Daluo Jinxian, he is unfathomable. He could even take the heavenly venerable godhead, so it's not a problem for him to escape everyone's perception. He can come back and ignore Xiao Xinghe. Yes, Master. Sword King Chen Taishu and King Ying also left after hearing King Luo Ying's words. However, before Sword King Chen Tai Su left, He said something to Chun Nan and actually took Chun Nan away. Obviously, Chun Taishu wanted to help Chun Nan, who had stepped into the top 10 of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. In everyone's opinion, it should be because of Li Yuan. In fact, Chun Nan was Chun Taishu's nephew. Si Xian left with Prince Ing as usual. As for Chun Shui, Helian Wuzi and the others who had already finished their journey in the competition, they all went to the palace where the Academy of Dahua was located. They had already reached an agreement with Parkway Academy. Midnight. The night sky was clear, and the stars were shining brightly. A figure silently floated out from a palace in the deepest part of Zhulu Academy. Immediately, it transformed into an undetectable ray of light and disappeared into the horizon. After a while, the space barrier did not fluctuate at all and directly split open. That figure appeared in the chaotic space and did not stop at all, heading towards the depths of the chaotic space. His speed was so fast that even the Sword King, King Ing, and the others would be shocked if they saw him. Who else in the world could make Prince Ing and the Sword King flabbergasted? The Celestial River King. The figure that was heading towards the depths of the chaotic space at a terrifying speed was the Celestial River King. The Celestial River King went for a full 2 hours. When he reached the area where the spatial storm was strong enough to tear apart an ordinary true immortal king, he finally stopped. With a wave of his hand, he condensed a pure land, blocking the terrifying spatial storm outside. At this moment, a figure flew out from between the Celestial River King's eyebrows and directly knelt on the ground. Greetings, great ancestor. This figure was the #1 person of the Shao family in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, Shao Jiutian. There's not much time, get up. Great ancestor, what are we doing? Shao Jiutian looked around in confusion. He had already entered the great world in the great ancestor's mind to cultivate. He did not understand why the great ancestor had summoned him. I will temporarily split a part of my life to fuse with you. Ah? Great ancestor. You don't have to worry. You are the old ancestor's favorite disciple. How can I kill you? Unfortunately, with your current strength, it is impossible for you to take first place in the Daluo Golden Wonderland's ranking competition. Great ancestor, I am confident. Although Li Yuan is the spirit of all living beings and is extremely powerful, how can I be sure without a real battle? I must. You are just making a judgment based on your years of invincibility. You are not his opponent. The Celestial River King waved his hand and interrupted Shao Jiutian. You have awakened 80% of my bloodline, and the remaining 20% belongs to you. No one will notice if I split a part of my life to fuse with you temporarily. You should be clear about my purpose. Godhead. Yes. In the top 10, besides you, Miao Xian, Qin Yang, and Ning Jing, Li Yuan, Su Junfeng, Tang Haotian, Wei Wufa, Zhan Yuanzhao, and Song Long Yuan are all spirits of all living beings. Each of them has a godhead. Especially Li Yuan, who has Gu Xian's heavenly venerable godhead and Shi Chao's godhead. I must obtain them no matter what. When the time comes, I will give you a chance to comprehend them. Oh, great ancestor, Li Yuan, didn't you recognize him as your disciple? Shao Jiutian asked. Even though the Celestial River King was his ancestor, Shao Jiutian still felt a little repulsed by the Celestial River King's temporary fusion with him. That was not what he wanted. As the Shao family's #1 genius, he wanted to win the first place fair and square with his own strength. Only then could he win the fortune and temper himself. If he couldn't escape my perception, I wouldn't have done this. Unfortunately, he has exposed a concealment ability that is beyond my knowledge. In such a situation, if he has any ulterior motives, wouldn't my efforts be in vain? Therefore, I must hold him firmly in my hands. And the ranking competition is no doubt the best opportunity. The Celestial River King said, You have seen it for yourself. King Ying, Chen Taishu, and Luo Ying King are standing on Li Yuan's side. If I miss this opportunity, even if I want to attack him, it will be difficult. After explaining so much to you, I only hope that you can understand and cooperate with me. Otherwise, if there is a slight abnormality in your aura, King Ying and Luo Ying King will sense it. I understand, Great Ancestor. I will do my best to cooperate with you. Xiao Jiutian said without a choice. What the Celestial River King didn't know was that 2 hours after he left the Zhulu Academy's palace, King Ying's figure appeared. However, King Ying didn't hide. Instead, he openly came to the Celestial River King's palace. After standing there for a full 2 minutes, he erased his aura and quietly left. Today's update. I won't repay my debt first. I haven't written for a few days. I need to think about it carefully. Chapter 1452. How is it? When King Ying returned to the palace where Jade Maiden Palace was located, Sword King Chen Taishu and King Luoying, who had arrived at some point, couldn't wait to ask. Sure enough, he is not in the palace. King Ying frowned slightly. So, he really went to find Li Yuan? Sword King Chen Taishu said worriedly. It must be. Since Star River King can't lock Li Yuan's aura with his character, how can he just wait? When Li Yuan left, he didn't tell us where he was going. No, since he has taken action, we can't just wait. In any case, we can't let anything happen to Li Yuan. King Luoying, you are good at deduction, why don't you try? I can't deduce Li Yuan's situation, his fate is a blur. Sword King Chen Taishu said. This kid is someone who has jumped out of the 3 realms and is not part of the 5 elements. I am unable to deduce anything about him. King Luoying said, after a slight pause, however, I can try to deduce based on his woman. Your disciple Miao Xian seems to have reached the point of telepathy with him. How about using Miao Xian to deduce? No problem. Hiss. After Chen Taishu finished speaking, he directly took out a drop of blood essence and said, This is Xian's blood essence. When is this blood essence? I mean, before or after she met Li Yuan? This is from before. Is there a big difference? Of course. I want to deduce Li Yuan's location through Miao Xian, so naturally, I need their blood essence after they met. You have me. Okay. Wait a moment. Miao Xian and Qin Yang were in Chen Taishu's mind world at the moment, so after Chen Taishu finished speaking, a drop of blood essence floated out from between his eyebrows. Obviously, this time he asked for it from Miao Xian. This is now. King Luoying, are you sure? It's hard to say, let's try. If it doesn't work, we will act separately. We can't just wait. Okay, I will start now. Luoying King's aura changed as soon as he finished speaking. His entire body became ethereal in an instant. At the same time, a series of mysterious and strange magic symbols emerged from his hand and struck Miao Xian's blood essence. An ethereal aura spread out as if the river of fate had been opened. Her nimble hands were using runes to capture the information she needed from the river of life. She was mumbling something under her breath, but even King Ying and Chen Taishu could not understand what she was saying. Is this the fusion of deduction and fate? Chen Taishu was surprised. Luo Ying's deduction technique is much stronger than before. He must have comprehended a little bit of the Great Destiny technique, right? King Ying was equally surprised. King Luo Ying was proficient in the Great Deduction technique. However, at that moment the ethereal aura contained the aura of the River of Destiny. It was an aura that could only be captured when they appeared to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens. However, at that moment, King Luoying had actually used it. In fact, many true immortal kings would occasionally appear to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens when they were cultivating. Even if they managed to capture a little bit of it, it would be a guide for the cultivator or their disciples. It could also be considered as their deduction. It was just like Chun Taishu's deduction of Miao Xian entering the Emperor Star's secret realm. However, such a chance to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens was like an epiphany. It could only be chanced upon and not sought. However, King Luoying, a true expert in deduction, could actually take the initiative to use this technique. After a full hour, a shadow suddenly appeared and rushed into the sky. Unfortunately, Chun Taishu and King Ying could not see it at all. However, in King Luoying's eyes, it was Chun Hao's shadow. After the shadow flashed 9 times, it disappeared along with Miao Xian's blood essence. 9 heavens? King Luoying looked at King Ying and Chun Taishu in shock, as if he had discovered something unbelievable. What do you mean? King Ying and Chun Taishu did not understand what King Luoying meant. The result of my deduction is that Li Yuan is above the 9 heavens. What? How is this possible? Above the 9 heavens? Even for us, it would take dozens of years to pass through the 9 heavens imperial court. How could Li Yuan reach above the 9 heavens in such a short period of time? That's why I'm so surprised. The result of this deduction should be correct. Miao Xian and he are already connected and their destinies are intertwined. Although we are still unable to capture his aura in the river of life, Miao Xian's aura has his shadow. There shouldn't be a mistake. Just as King Luoying said this, a mysterious spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the void where the 3 of them were standing. Immediately, the 3 of them widened their eyes in shock and cried out in surprise. The 3 of them were the most powerful people in the great world of Xiandi. How could they lose their composure like this? Obviously, they had seen something unbelievable. Senior King Ying, Senior King Luoying, uncle, are you looking for me? As Chun Hao's voice sounded, his figure appeared out of thin air and his gaze landed on King Luoying. He did not avoid King Ying and King Luoying when he addressed Chun Taishu. Good lad. What kind of secret art is this? Not to mention that you appeared out of thin air in front of us. How did you know we were here, and how did you know we were looking for you? Don't tell me you were hiding nearby. King Sword Chun Hao looked at Chun Hao and asked a series of questions. Chun Hao laughed in front of Chun Taishu's eyes and said, I sensed it. It should be Senior King Luoying who used Miao Xian as the foundation to deduce my location, right? Therefore, I locked onto Senior King Luoying's aura and came here. As for the divine ability, I won't hide it from uncle. There are some that I inherited and some that came from the ancient mystic Empyrean godhead. For example, the ability to travel through space. The 3 of them were shocked. Travel through space. You were really above the 9 heavens just now? It was beyond the 9 heavens. Why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Is there something wrong? Chun Hao corrected Chun Taishu's words and asked. When he had miraculously sensed that someone was spying on him through the river of life, he had sensed Miao Xian's aura. However, it was impossible for Miao Xian of the Daluo Golden Wonderland to have such an ability. However, since she had used this method to find him, and he had just finished all his cultivation, he naturally locked onto her aura and traveled through space. It had to be said that Chun Hao had been enlightened by Old God. After accepting himself, it was fine when he did not encounter anything. However, once he encountered something, he would automatically awaken the related divine ability. It was just like how he had managed to deduce King Luoying's location. This was something that the previous him would definitely not be able to do. After all, in the past, he had never been able to learn anything about the mysteries of divination and fate. However, now that he had accepted the past and dared to face the future, everything seemed to have changed. Chapter 1453. Beyond the 9 heavens. The boundless starry sky and the myriad of galaxies. Regardless of whether it was for mortals or powerful true immortal kings, they were all vast and mysterious. Although there was only a difference of a single word between the 9 heavens and the 9 heavens, there was a difference of heaven and earth. Beyond the 9 heavens was the chaotic space near the barrier of the great thousand world. Beyond the 9 heavens was the depths of the chaotic space. Even true immortal kings wouldn't easily step beyond the 9 heavens, as it was a very dangerous place. It was easy to get lost in the endless galaxies and never return. After a few seconds, King Ing and the other 2 regained their senses from the shock. "It's nothing. We were just worried that the Star River King would harm you, so we came out to take a look," King Ing said. "It didn't affect your cultivation, right? Why don't you come to my great world? Otherwise, my space-time can be condensed to 2,800 times. Thank you for your kindness, Senior King Ing, but I don't need to cultivate for the time being." "So fast?" Chen Taishu was surprised. King Luo Ing and King Ing were no exception. They knew that Chen Hao needed to fully integrate the 9 lives. Based on their understanding of the 9 lives profound technique, it would take some time. "If Miao Xian and Qin Yang need it, let them come to my space. Gu Xian's Godhead space has 30,000 times the space-time law." Chen Hao smiled slightly and said calmly. Chen Hao had already refined Gu Xian's Godhead. In other words, Gu Xian's heavenly venerable Godhead and Shi Chao's Godhead had completely fused together and became one with the great world in Chen Hao's mind, becoming Chen Hao's Godhead. The space-time law had improved by a large margin compared to before. Chen Hao, King Ing, and King Luo Ing looked at each other speechlessly. In just a few minutes, the 3 of them, the top 3 in the great world of Xiandi, were shocked to the point of being numb by Chen Hao 30,000 times the space-time law. What kind of concept was that? There was another point. Chen Hao was just a Daluo golden wonderland. Even if it was a Godhead space, could it ignore the restrictions of cultivation realm? Chi. 2 streams of light flew out from between Chen Taishu's eyebrows, after which, Qin Yang and Miao Xian appeared in front of the 4 people. The moment Miao Xuan saw Chen Hao, her face turned red, and she avoided Chen Hao's gaze. "Qin Yang came back from the dead, and even obtained the immortal qi that you guided. He needs time to properly digest it. As for Xian, I need to have a good chat with you. No problem, right?" Chen Taishu said bluntly. "Of course, there's no problem. It's just immortal energy, and there's plenty of it. It's very easy to refine it. It's just that comprehending it might require a certain realm. What did you say? You have a lot of immortal qi?" Chen Taishu, Prince Ing, and Prince Luoying widened their eyes once again and looked at Chen Hao with fervent gazes. Chen Taishu even lost his composure and grabbed Chen Hao's shoulder. "It's in the space of the Godhead. If you need it, you can also enter," Chen Hao said with a smile. He naturally knew that what he said now was very shocking to Chen Taishu and the others. However, at this moment, Chen Hao clearly felt the change in his mentality. Even though he hadn't awakened his past memories and had only awakened the absolute art inheritance, his horizons and knowledge had undergone a huge change. These things that were enough to shock the great world of Xiandi were nothing in his eyes. He was still himself, but his horizons and his mentality had completely surpassed this world. The only difference was his realm. His person, his heart, and his consciousness were already standing at a height that this world couldn't reach. He was high up and looked down on all living things. "All right. Really? This is good too." Chen Taishu, Prince Ing, and Prince Luoying said different things, but their slightly excited expressions were the same. Moreover, anyone could see that they were trying their best to suppress their emotions for the sake of their reputation. Otherwise, with their status, they would lose their composure in front of a cultivator from the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Buzz. Chen Hao smiled and a bright and sacred golden light shone from between his eyebrows. It was clearly a small dot, but it was like a space-time gate that led to another greater world. It was shocking. "You can go in now," Chen Hao said. Master, junior sister, I'll go in first. Qing Yang didn't stand on ceremony, and stepped in first. Xian, Master is going in too. Ha! Chen Taishu said and directly entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Pus, pus, pus. A ray of light suddenly floated out from between Prince Luoying's eyebrows and Xuefian appeared. Immediately, 2 rays of light appeared from between Prince Ying's eyebrows. Si Xian and another beauty appeared at the same time. It was Ningjing, the chief grand heavenly of the Jade Maiden Palace, who had entered the Daluo Golden Wonderland and represented the Jade Maiden Palace in the top 10. Fian. Chen Hao smiled and greeted Xuefian. Si Xian went to his side and looked like a cultivation partner. Naturally, there was no need for him to greet her. Fatty, Xuefian habitually called out. However, because her master was a fated person and called Chen Hao Tushu in front of everyone, she didn't know how to face Chen Hao. After all, they had maintained a sibling relationship and Chen Hao was their boss. You go in with Si Xian first. Later, I'll call our people in. Chen Hao said very naturally. Xuefian responded. Because of Chen Hao's natural behavior, her anxious mood became slightly calmer. Come, let's go in first. Prince Luoying pulled Xuefian and entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Of course, she was excited. Chen Hao, my disciple, Ningjing, you already know her. Can you go in with me? Prince Ying said. Now, although Prince Ying was Chen Hao's elder, she couldn't speak to Chen Hao as an elder. Firstly, the communication between them was really limited. Secondly, Chen Hao was now an unfathomable existence in her heart. Moreover, he was the reincarnation of a mighty person from the immortal world. How could she treat him as a junior? The place is very big. Of course, there's no problem. Li Yuan, thank you. However, thank you, I still want to fight with you in the top 10 ranking competition. Welcome. Chen Hao nodded in response. Ningjing smiled and took her master Prince Ying's arm. Together, they entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Suddenly, only Chen Hao and Miao Xian were left at the scene. Why aren't you going in? Are you really going to have a good chat like your master and my uncle said? I don't mind. You! What about me? Chen Hao smiled faintly as he looked calmly at Miao Xian, who was infuriated by his words, and asked in reply. I was very grateful to you. I also felt that I had wronged you before. Only now do I realize. I am a scoundrel. This is who I am. The truest me. If you don't like it, you can choose not to take responsibility. I have plenty of women. You saw it too. I don't lack you. You're shameless. Miao Xian was so angry that her chest heaved. Responsibility? Who was responsible for who? So what if he had plenty of women? The worst thing was that Chen Hao's expression and tone were too calm. He was so calm that he didn't seem to care about her at all. Miao Xian felt that she couldn't continue the conversation with Chen Hao. She turned into a stream of light and entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Miao Xian, who was in Chen Hao's so-called Godhead space, which was actually the world in his mind, let out a shriek as if she was about to collapse. That was because she heard Chen Hao's infuriating words. "Tsk, I thought you would leave. Aren't you reluctant to part with your big brother?" Chapter 1454. This, everyone, including Sword King Chen Hao, King Ying, and King Luoying, looked at the scene in front of them in shock after stepping into Chen Hao's so-called divine spark dimension. The space-time laws were so powerful that they could not deduce it, the thick and pure immortal qi, the terrifying vitality, and the endless mysterious Tao laws, filled the entire dimension. No, to be exact, it was a great world. This was far beyond their imagination. The Tao manifestation, immortal fruit tree, and the tree of life were rooted in the spirit fountain sea and connected to the 9 heavens and 10 earth. They gathered endless Tao laws and absorbed boundless immortal qi and endless life force, causing the entire spirit fountain sea to undergo a qualitative change. Immortal qi coiled around and vitality flourished. Is this really just a divine spark dimension? It doesn't look like it. Although we don't have a divine spark, according to the records I read, the divine spark dimension is just a Sumeru dimension. However, Li Yuan's dimension is obviously the aura of a great world, and it's many times more powerful than my sword Tao Great World. No way? Qin Yang, Xuefian, and the angry Miao Xian who came later were all in disbelief. That's the truth. This kid is really heaven-defying. Earth, what kind of existence is that? Could it be that it's even more powerful than the immortal realm? King Ying said softly, staring at Chen Hao's vast and boundless great world. Earth? King Luoying was slightly stunned. Xuefian, Qin Yang, and Miao Xian were also surprised. Obviously, apart from Si Xian, Chen Hao, and King Ying, no one else knew about Chen Hao's true identity. Nothing. King Ying knew he had said something wrong and shook his head. In fact, there were no outsiders present, but it was best that fewer people knew about Chen Hao's true identity. After all, in the world of cultivation, as long as one's divine ability was powerful, even the dead could not keep secrets. The best way to keep secrets was to not know. 30,000 times the space-time laws, such thick immortal qi, and the heavenly Tao laws that even we can't comprehend. Even for the three of us, this is a rare place for cultivation. Let's not waste time, those palaces must have been prepared for us, right? Let's all go, Prince Ying said. Countless palaces stood under the Tao manifestation, immortal fruit tree and the tree of life. The immortal qi was extremely thick, and colorful rays of light shone out in all directions. Even though none of them had been to the celestial realm, at this moment, they felt that this was an existence that wasn't inferior to the celestial realm. Alright. The Sword King Chen Hao also didn't want too many people to know about Chen Hao's secret, so he took the initiative to respond. After he finished speaking, he stepped out with King Ying. Si Xian, Xuefian, Qin Yang, Miao Xian, and Ning Jing followed the three seniors to the palaces. Each of them chose a palace and entered it. 1. Space shook and Chen Hao, who was standing in the air, disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the palace that Zhulu Academy had arranged for Hua Academy. All of Zhulu Academy's restrictions were useless against Chen Hao, who had traveled through the starry sky. The moment Chen Hao appeared, his eyes of fire and gold appeared. He swept his gaze across the palace and clearly saw the rooms that everyone was in. As for the scenes that he accidentally saw that he shouldn't have seen, it was naturally unavoidable. However, with Chen Hao's current mental state, he was already easily able to attain the state of see no evil, hear no evil. Chen Hao disappeared on the spot. In one of the rooms, Chen Shui, who was sitting cross-legged and immersed in cultivation, suddenly trembled and made a soft sound. However, it was only for a moment. She suddenly turned around and threw herself into the arms of the person who had sneakily hugged her. She hugged him tightly. "Brother, my aura changed. How did you know it was me? Who else would be so bored other than you? Do you think this is the street?" Chen Shui said coquettishly. Her beautiful face was full of happiness. How many years of waiting was that? Tao companions, eternal Tao companions on the road to the great Tao. However, on their journey to the peak of the great Tao, the only time they had together was when they first started cultivating. That was her most beautiful memory, her sweetest yearning. Now, how long had she waited before she finally had this rare time alone? Once again throwing herself into Chen Hao's arms, Chen Shui's memory was like a dream. Although her face was full of happiness and her mouth was relaxed, as she buried her head in Chen Hao's chest, 2 streaks of tears flowed out uncontrollably from her eyes. Chun Hao held Chen Shui's slender waist with one hand and patted Chen Shui's back with the other. He comforted Chen Shui but didn't say anything. This was something that couldn't be avoided on the road to the peak of the martial Tao. How could one set foot on the peak of the martial Tao while being intimate with each other under the moonlight? Since she had chosen, she had to endure the loneliness and solitude and move forward bravely. After hugging each other tightly for a full 2 minutes, Chun Hao gently separated from Chen Shui and said, "You go into my mental world first. We'll talk later." "Okay," Chen Shui replied. She didn't ask why and directly entered between Chun Hao's eyebrows. Buzz. Chun Hao's figure shook and once again appeared in a room. Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, Tantai Lian, Long Ting, Leng Ninghuan, Leng Ningle, Hu Mainyang, Xiao Mei, Bailey Ningbing, and the other women, as well as Chun Nan, Pan Long, Du Jing, Lan Feng, Chun Ling, and the other brothers and sisters from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World, as well as Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the other brothers and sisters from the great world of Xiandi, were all taken into Chun Hao's mental world. 30,000 times the space-time law, endless Tao law, thick immortal qi and vitality. To everyone, it was absolutely a cultivation holy land that they couldn't even dream of. However, Chun Hao from the Daluo Golden Wonderland had given them such a cultivation environment. In the end, Chun Hao even took Ruolan and Ruoxian into it. As for Ruolan and Ruoxian, Chun Hao naturally knew that Ruolan didn't hide her thoughts, and the two of them had indeed helped him a lot. However, Chun Hao, who had begun to inherit the absolute arts and awaken the state of mind, discovered the two's abnormalities when he took them into his mental world. This was something that Chun Hao couldn't discover before, even with his eyes of fire and gold. But now, he could see through the two women at a glance. Under such circumstances, when Chun Hao invited the two into his mental world, he hesitated slightly. But in the end, he chose to trust the two, especially Ruoxian's clear and resolute eyes. Phew, after settling everyone, Chun Hao let out a long sigh. All settled. Even if the Celestial River King goes crazy, I can still escape without any worries. In my great world, their cultivation bases will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. After this competition, I will step into the Hongmeng domain and advance to the Supreme Godhead of Hongmeng. With the Empyrean Godhead's space shielding me, I believe that even the Hongmeng domain won't be able to sense my mental world. Master, don't forget that you still have me. Naturally, there won't be any problems. Now, Master only needs to step into the Supreme Godhead of Hongmeng, and you will soar to the sky. The old god's voice sounded. Chapter 1455. Is that so? I don't think so. Chun Hao shrugged. Tell me, when will I be able to control that thing? Master, it's not that I don't want to let you control it, but it's restricted by your realm. I can't do anything about it. Then what realm do I have to reach to be able to control it? Chun Hao asked. Chun Hao was getting more and more curious about the existence in his mind, especially after experiencing Shi Chao and Gu Xian. Chun Hao could feel how powerful it was. Because the thing that could suppress Shi Chao and Gu Xian's godhead wasn't Chun Hao's godhead, but the mysterious thing guarded by the old god. In fact, even though Chun Hao had started to awaken the memories of the inheritance and concluded that he was the reincarnation of an expert, he still hadn't discovered the existence of his own godhead. This was strange. After all, the inheritance of the inheritance should come from the godhead. Even if Chun Hao hadn't awakened his memories, it should be the same. However, Chun Hao really couldn't capture the slightest bit of his own godhead's aura. This, Motherf *Ker, don't be fooled by this and that. Cough cough. Master, I originally thought that the Grand Mist Sovereign Realm would be enough. However, after you obtain Gu Xian's heavenly venerable godhead, it seems to have undergone some changes. As for when Master will be able to control it, I really can't be sure. You mean it will change as I mutate? Growth-type magic treasure? Yes, master. Chernhao shook his head and didn't continue. He directly blended into his room. The Yang God has reached the Great Circle, it's time for the Yin God. Ever since I went to the Emperor Star's secret realm, I haven't been to the immortal realm. There are still 2 days left, I can go take a look. Chernhao sat down cross-legged and muttered to himself. Regarding the immortal realm, Chernhao was looking forward to controlling it the most, Yang Luoyan. Up until now, based on the information that Chernhao had gathered from everyone, it was only that he had met the special Yang Luoyan. Others only had contact with the formulaic system. Perhaps her body contains an even greater secret, a secret that surpasses the immortal emperor, ancient chaos, and earth. Then, only the immortal realm? Chernhao thought to himself. Unfortunately, he couldn't get an answer for now. Letting out a long sigh, Chernhao activated the Soul Realm helmet. 1. Chernhao once again felt that his soul had completely left his body and entered the space of the immortal realm. As his soul drifted in a hazy and dazed manner, he heard heavenly music that sounded like the sound of nature. At the same time, a pleasant voice once again floated into Chernhao's ears. You haven't appeared for over 30,000 years. I thought you wouldn't come. This pleasant voice was filled with human emotions. Naturally, it was Yang Luoyan and not the system. The space-time laws of the immortal world were 100 times more powerful than the great world of CND. Chernhao had been in the Emperor Star's secret realm for over 300 years, which was equivalent to 30,000 years in the immortal world. How can that be? If I don't come, how can I step onto the path of the immortal emperor? Chernhao replied. You've awakened a bit of the Yin spirit. Yang Luoyan continued. Again, only her voice could be heard. You've also fused with 2 godheads, one of which is at the heavenly venerable level. Very powerful. A fused soul is indeed powerful. However, in the broadcast of the immortal world, I saw many ultimate techniques that shouldn't have appeared on you. You're only Daluo Jinxian, yet you can do it. This must be the beginning. Yang Luoyan suddenly stopped. The beginning of what? Of course, the awakening. What I mean is, the awakening of what? Chernhao asked expectantly. He felt that Yang Luoyan might not understand him as well as she did. I'm not telling you. As your cultivation level and strength increase, you'll naturally know. Yang Luoyan said. I say, fellow townsman, are you the real person? Of course I'm the real person. Does the system have such rich emotions like me? So many words. I already know the question you asked last time, but I still can't tell you. This is the rule. However, I can tell you that the 3 of them are safe and together. They even watched your competition together in the immortal world. They are very happy. Yang Luoyan said, Chernhao, in the future, don't call me fellow townsman. It's so unpleasant. Just call me by my name. Okay. Yan, can you do it? I've refined the heavenly venerable godhead, and have the ability to travel through space. Can you tell me the route back to Earth? Chernhao asked. Chernhao didn't care about Yang Luoyan's identity as the controller of the immortal world, and affectionately called her Yan. Firstly, he wanted to get closer to her. Secondly, Chernhao felt that Yang Luoyan's tone and attitude didn't have the slightest trace of the power of a controller. You really want to go back? The heavenly venerable godhead's ability to travel through space is very limited. Moreover, it is restricted by your own realm. Even if you know the route, it will take you millions of years to return to Earth. Yang Luoyan actually didn't have any objections to Chernhao's way of calling her. Millions of years? Chernhao said in surprise. This is under the condition that there are no accidents. Therefore, you'd better put away this thought and honestly advance to the immortal emperor realm. When you step into the immortal world, it will be easy to return to Earth. In the countless boundless worlds, countless spirits of all living things should have awakened. The sealed immortal world gate should have loosened. It is no longer impossible for you to advance to the immortal emperor realm. Chen Hao was speechless. Yang Liuyan's words had undoubtedly erased Chen Hao's idea of trying to return to Earth after stepping into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Although millions of years wasn't considered a long time for a true Immortal King realm expert, or even a Dao-severing true Immortal realm expert, Chen Hao, who had only lived for several tens of thousands of years, felt that it was a little too long. He was completely unable to accept it. There is one more thing to remind you. The Devil Dao and Divine Dao are the same as the Immortal Dao. They have also begun to awaken. Similarly, there are countless almighty reincarnators with Devil and Divine seals awakening. All order and rules are ineffective against them. Devil Dao, Divine Dao, Chen Hao said with a slight frown. From the memories of Shi Chao and Gu Xian's godheads, Chen Hao already understood that the so-called Devil Dao and Divine Dao were fundamentally not too different from the Immortal Dao. To be precise, the Immortal Dao contained the Devil Dao and Divine Dao. The Devil Dao was the extreme Yang God Dao, while the Divine Dao was the extreme Yin God Dao. Both had broken the shackles of Yin and Yang and existed independently. As for the Immortal Dao, it was still the coexistence of Yin and Yang. The fundamental reason for the Great War of the Three Realms back then was the struggle for control of the immortal world. The gods and demons joined forces to contend against the immortals. In the end, both sides suffered great losses. It's useless no matter how much you think about it. Increasing your strength is the key. In the great world of Xiandi, you have already reached the great perfection of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Yang Luyan said, since you have already awakened a little of your Yin God, you should quickly cultivate and increase your strength. It's not difficult for you to achieve the balance of Yin and Yang. There are still 2 more days before the top 10 competition, right? You can still cultivate here for more than 200 days. Chapter 1456. Yang Luyan was obviously aware of Chen Hao's every move in the great world of Xiandi. Chen Hao was not surprised by this. Since the immortal world space had broadcasted the competition of the great world of Xiandi, Chen Hao, who had been in the limelight during the competition, naturally could not escape the eyes of Yang Luyan, the controller of the immortal world space. Okay. Buzz. 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 After Chen Hao responded, a bright immortal light suddenly enveloped him. Immediately after, Chen Hao clearly felt that the space-time was constantly distorted and his aura was rapidly changing. However, unlike before, Chen Hao, who had awakened a little of his Yin spirit, had a new understanding. At this moment, he was not a physical body condensed from his soul, but a Yin spirit. He was the real him. After a full 10 minutes, the void split open and Chen Hao came out of the great thousand world contained in earth. He began to cultivate without any distractions. In the depths of the chaotic space, terrifying fluctuations of Tao laws pervaded the air. Even with the seal of the restriction, it could not completely conceal the terrifying aura that came from it. The spiritual altar between the Star River King's eyebrows and his hands were constantly condensing mysterious runes, which were then injected into the body of the Star River King that was suspended above Xiao Jiutian's head. This body's aura was getting closer and closer to Xiao Jiutian. Moreover, as the aura got closer, the distance between Xiao Jiutian and the body was also getting closer. When their auras were exactly the same, it was time for them to merge into one. The Star River King was a half-step immortal emperor. Although he only had 1 life and had to seal roughly the same aura as Xiao Jiutian, he was still a half-step immortal emperor after all. After the fusion, whether it was his physical strength, soul power, divine ability, supreme technique, heavenly Tao law, or state of mind, they would all belong to him. There was no doubt that Xiao Jiutian's strength would skyrocket by several times. Time passed by minute. When there were 2 hours left before the start of the top 10 ranking competition, the Star River King's life and Xiao Jiutian's life finally overlapped and merged into one. Roar! Xiao Jiutian, or to be exact, the avatar of the Star River King, suddenly roared at the sky. The roar was like rolling thunder, making the already terrifying energy storm even more terrifying. How is it? What great power! Ancestor, I feel that my absolute power has increased by 3 times, and my combat strength has definitely increased by 5 times. This is just what you feel. When I was in control, a 10-fold increase in battle prowess was just the beginning. Your soul couldn't feel the increase in state of mind, will, heavenly Tao laws, and divine abilities. That's the main point. 10 times is still just the starting point. Xiao Jiutian was extremely shocked. Although he had long known that the old ancestor would have a shocking increase in strength after fusing with him, he did not expect the increase to be so shocking. Well, I'll seal your soul first. For the time being, you'll lose all perception of the outside world. However, you'll be able to sense all of my aura. This is a rare opportunity for you. Don't let me down. Yes, ancestor. Many thanks, old ancestor. Xiao Jiutian said excitedly. The Star River King had not annihilated his soul until now. In his opinion, the Star River King must really like him as a junior and really wanted to nurture him. Being able to fuse with the old ancestor's soul and feel the old ancestor's true aura and battle prowess would undoubtedly open a door for him to peek into half-step immortal emperor divine abilities and heavenly Tao laws. How could he not be excited? The Star River King directly took Xiao Jiutian, who had fused with his life, into his mind's great world. So what if I've awakened the spirit of all things? I've fused with the 9 heavens. Although I've been bound to the Daluo Golden Wonderland, I'll be the one fighting. Except for absolute power, everything else will be at the half-step immortal emperor level. Godhead, I'll get all of them. The great world of Xiandi, the first one to step into the immortal emperor realm, must be me, Xiao Xinghe. The only one who can control the great world of Xiandi is me. The Star River King thought to himself. At the same time, he turned into a stream of light and quickly flew toward the great world of Xiandi. Let's welcome the top 10 contestants of the Daluo Golden Wonderland to their seats. The great world of Xiandi, Deer Chaser Peak. The long-awaited top 10 competition had finally arrived. The host stepped onto the huge arena at the center of the martial arts field and announced loudly, "Chi." A stream of light streaked across the sky as Su Junfeng, one of the top 10 contestants, flew toward the arena. His aura was released without restraint. What a powerful aura! Is this his true aura? It's not strange for him to have such a powerful aura to be able to injure Bu Chen. He's also recognized as the spirit of all beings. Although he might not be as strong as Gu Xian, he's not much weaker. Su Junfeng had directly challenged Bu Chen when he was fighting for a spot in the top 10. His strength was unfathomable. At this moment, his confident expression and the aura he was releasing had undoubtedly made the crowd look forward to his next match. Su Junfeng, do your best. I'll support you. Su Junfeng. Su Junfeng. Even though Su Junfeng did not belong to any faction or faction, his powerful strength still won him the support of many admirers. Chi. Shortly after, Song Longyuan, Tang Haotian, Zhan Yuanzhao, and Wei Wufa came out one after another. Song Longyuan and Tang Haotian's battle intent surged as they looked at the world with disdain. They didn't seem to care about Su Junfeng's powerful aura. When they landed on the top 10 contestant seats, they looked at Su Junfeng with confidence. On the other hand, Zhan Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa, who had been Gu Xian's lackeys for a while, had grave and worried expressions on their faces. It was obvious that they were under a lot of pressure. This was especially so when they heard the crowd's discussion about the two of them. They cursed Gu Xian's 18 generations of ancestors for hugging the wrong leg. These two are also the spirits of all beings. They don't have any backbone at all. I think they're just trash at the bottom. Yeah, I'm sure that when it's their turn to fight Li Yuan, they'll definitely admit defeat. Otherwise, they won't even know how they died. Serves them right. I despise servile people like them the most. Spirits of all beings? I really don't know how they became immortal emperors before they reincarnated. It's simply an insult to the immortal emperors. I know a little about this. According to the records of our academy, the immortal emperors of the immortal world are not much different from the Daluo Jingxian of the great world of Xiandi. As long as they're not idiots, they can become immortal emperors. I guess they're the natives of the immortal world, and the worst kind of trash. These words made Zhang Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa's faces turn red. This was the truth. In the Great Thousand World, even the strongest immortal emperor in the Great Thousand World of ancient chaos, wanting to become immortal emperors was harder than ascending to the heavens. However, the natives of the immortal world had a unique advantage. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.